things, admin things I gotta take care of. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, setting up for the live show is considerably less stressful since figuring out how Discord actually works and not having it connected to my webcam microphone.
Yeah. I could
Actually
imagine
knowing.
so. Yeah, I think the last shows were pretty good, and people come in and they know how to find you now, so that's good.
Yeah, I published the link when I published the advert, so to speak, and it puts it into the subscription feeds. That happens when I schedule the show. So I obviously schedule it for 8 PM UK, or what is that, 2 PM Central. But as soon as I did that, I went into the Discord server, grabbed the link from the live stream, and stuck it underneath the video. So in other words, if somebody goes in, live in 3 hours, they can still scroll down to the Discord link and come into the Discord live stream link.
Yeah. That's good.
Because I thought there's no harm in sticking it out early. It's not like a Hangout link where they can come and destroy the Hangout while you're sat away. They just go in the live stream and sit there if they want to, on mute.
Yeah, then they can snipe, they can do anything else. Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
Hey
Anthony.
Hey Anthony, how are you doing?
Are you on Gravity tonight?
We are doing Gravity tonight.
I want to do a short presentation. Have you seen BALLBUSTER's latest video about Julius Sumner Miller?
Nope.
He talks about 2 videos, or he just plays Julius Sumner Miller's videos. And what Bob doesn't realise is that there's a part in there, in the video that he plays, that is absolutely so pro relative density that you wouldn't believe it. And I've asked him in comments to address it, because he only says 3 sentences. And it's basically says something like, we're going to stick a weight on the scales, and it reads something, and I don't really care what it reads. It reads a number. And then he says 2 other things that follow it. Now, if you're a relative density supporter, you get exactly what he's getting at. If you're a relative density denier, it makes no sense it makes no sense to you at all. And Bob's got it in his video, so I've asked him to address it. So what I want to do is just to put a little bit of pressure on Bob to address it, so that basically, so that he addresses it. Because what Julius Sumner Miller says is absolutely, totally, and utterly unnecessary, but he says it anyway. So the question is, well, why does he say it? What's he getting at? And it's just glorious. It's like 3 sentences, and none of them are relevant. They're all relevant, but none of them are necessary. The fact that he says these unnecessary statements is a massive tip of the cap to relative density people. And if you don't believe and accept relative density, you're not going to understand why it's there, because it's completely extra. And you'll know what I mean when I say it, but probably take me about 6, maybe 7 minutes. So I don't know whether to go first and get it out the way, or wait till the end.
I don't
mind which, but if it goes on to the end, I may have to go out, because I've got to do a job later on about 11. So if it runs past 11,
I won't run that long. No, you'll definitely get to squeeze it in if you've got. What time do you have to actually leave before the job?
At 11.
At 11. Oh, you'll definitely squeeze it in at the end. But John's prepped this, so there's no way I'm going to say, yeah, sure, this last minute thing you've put together because it's short. Well, I'll ask him. Well, I won't ask him. You will.
Well, I don't mind asking him, but I think that a change in voice at the start might be useful, because I don't know. Did you read Slick James's comment about the church? I read it to you. About John's the pastor and Nathan's the usher and all that.
That's nice.
Yeah. So it depends on how you want the format to go, but it'll take me about 4, maybe 6 minutes max to explain it if I don't get interrupted. It'll create a conversation though, and people will be like, yeah, why is he saying that? Because all he has to say is, we put a weight on this weight and it measures 3 kilograms or whatever. End of sentence. That's all he needs to say. But he doesn't. He says 3 additional sentences, and I'm like, come on, Bob, explain this. Why does he put these extra bits in that don't need to be there?
Like I say,
Am I still here?
Yeah, of course you're still here. We're all contemplating. You've never had a BALLBUSTERS pre-show briefing, have you?
No.
Well, obviously, I would suggest that you sit through the BALLBUSTERS pre-show briefing and then decide whether or not you want to ask your question first.
Whoops.
Well, I can assume I know. I can presume I know what the briefing is. Don't fucking interrupt me when I'm speaking.
No, there's more to it than that. You know, keep your interruptions concise.
Sorry, did you say are my interruptions concise, or did you say keep them?
Well, there's scheduled stops along the presentation. So at a scheduled stop, if there's something to add, don't ramble on making the same point five more times. Just make your point. That's it. That's kind of me more than John, because I want to keep the show concise. As much as John's presentation will always be concise, it's John's presentation, so it'll be information ram-packed and concise. But to make it more viewer friendly, we're here. In other words, we're like the anchovy or the garnish. You know what I mean? We're making it look a bit nicer and more appetizing, but it's not really required for the meal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, we decide dishes.
Yeah. Well, I'd call my roll a side dish. No, I'm only joking.
The sauces and
Or as
side
James would
dishes
call it,
are
the
important.
usher.
Well, let's put it this way. Anthony wants to be a side dish, which is fair enough. Everyone wants to be a side dish. Sometimes you can be the main meal, as Paula knows.
Well, be careful that you don't be a side.
I'm not. That's not what I want. I'm not interested. What I'm interested.
And we only serve meat here.
I'm not
I was gonna-
interested in being a side dish. What I'm interested in is putting pressure.
Putting
Yeah.
pressure.
Do you have a container?
Fucking empty lag for some reason. Yeah, I want.
A lot of Tupperware.
Right. Okay.
Am I coming through? Okay, so
We've only got 6 minutes. So, John, can you give the pre-show briefing, and then Anthony's got a question.
Yeah, pre-show briefing is to hold off on all your questions and comments until I give you the go. You don't have to wait for me this time if I say comments, questions, and then you guys could just roll. Do you want to roll? It's better if we don't guess at this. How do you want to roll? Do you want to go? Is Anthony going to stay the whole time?
Yeah, I think so, because I estimate that he'll be still around by the time the show's rounding out. He might not be around for the after show debate, but that's probably it.
Right. Now, do you guys prefer any order to go in instead of stepping all over each other? Let's get a system down right now. Who goes first, second, third?
Ladies first. So typically it'll go age. I would say age before beauty. So it's got to be Paula, Betty.
I'll always win that.
Yeah. Paula, then Betty, then it'll be Anthony. Is Adam on the call?
It will be later, I think.
So either Anthony after Adam if Adam's on.
All right, you finish up, Anthony. We'll go Betty, or Paula, Betty, then Anthony. Try to keep your comments concise. That's all I ask. That's it.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Go ahead, Anthony. What?
Well, you've got a specific request, right?
Yeah, the side dish.
No, I'm not interested in the side dish. I'm interested in raising awareness to the point that Bob hates, which is relative density, in the context of what Bob's presented on his latest video. Now, I actually agree with a lot of what Julius Sumner Miller demonstrates, but he's got this really beautiful way of using language to make points that don't need to be there. And it's like, well, why is he making these points that don't...
Presentation, right?
Yeah, it'd be about 6 minutes.
Well, just do it after. When I'm done, just do it after.
As
No
a dessert.
worries.
Yeah, just do it after. You got a cold.
No, I'm on my mobile. I do have a bit of a cold, yeah. I'm getting over it
Yeah,
now.
I could tell. Just do it after we're done. You'll know that, Nathan. You'll know. When it's over. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day. You'll know. It'll be after a really short Einstein quip. So you'll know, and then just ask Anthony. Anthony, do you have something else? And just let Anthony go. That's fine.
I'm gonna have to log on my PC. This is for some reason my phone's having a minute.
Yeah, it's not sounding good either.
I'll reconnect on my PC. 1 sec.
Okay.
Well, what about Anthony going first?
Because it might be long and drawn out.
Well, he said it was only about 6 minutes.
Yeah, but that's Anthony time. So that's 26 minutes.
Those are Microsoft minutes, right? It'll count down and then go, oh, now you got an hour.
Come on there, Nathan. I mean, let's keep it real now.
Okay.
And now he's under pressure because after the show he has to make it short and quick before he has to go to work.
Right.
But you have to be short and quick too, because otherwise he doesn't have any time. Right?
Oh, he'll have plenty of time.
So
Yeah,
how long is it then?
I don't.
He's got to go at 11, he said. So he's actually got to go out for a job at 11. So, in other words, 3 hours. But I'm hoping to keep future shows, the main event, down to 2 maximum.
It's not going to be. I'm not going to be 3 hours, man.
I know. On this particular, I know roughly how long this one will be, and it won't be 2 hours. So Anthony's definitely going to be here when he wants to get to do his presentation.
Yeah. He's not going to have any worries. It's not going to take me that long to go through this.
No.
It's not the same presentation. I altered it a little bit, but it's not going to be no friggin' 3 hours.
Yeah, you mentioned it vaguely yesterday.
Yeah. Unless we have the Paula and Betty show in the middle, like we had last week.
Well, we can, but we are just the side dishes.
Yeah. It's a good name.
Yeah. Hopefully not the side kicks.
Well, I was a lot more derogatory. So what I said was that we weren't needed at all for the meal, and that we were like relish or garnish rather.
Oh, I was wondering what you were talking about.
So,
And the cherries on top.
Yeah, cherry on top as opposed to a side dish, which is far more important to the meal.
Oh, side dishes are more or less the main meals, aren't they?
Well, they're the most important. They're what make it special.
They're exactly that what makes the meal special. Exactly. You got to have the side dishes.
So Anthony will be dessert today?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Too funny, bad.
But it also
Gotta save room.
Even though he's not here at the moment, that actually I would say is a slightly better position to go, because it's just before the public can come and question or query anything in that regard. So if it's a controversial topic that's just been released by Globebusters, that's useful for Anthony's purposes, right? He's trying to, is it stir the honey pot? Is that the right?
Stir the honey pot. Hashtag same team.
Yeah.
Just stir the pot, I think.
Stir the
honey
pot.
pot is a completely different thing.
Right. So yeah, stir the pot. If that's what he's looking to do. I mean, I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but nevertheless, that's typically Anthony's bag, right?
Yeah. What is he going to talk about? The relative density?
It's on topic, so it's gravity related. But yes, that's what he mentioned. Yeah, 60 seconds, and we'll start live.
Just intro me, John, so that I know that you're done, and I don't think that you're done and you're not done. Just intro me when you're ready.
No, you'll know. Nathan will intro you. He'll know.
Because I don't want to get the judgment call wrong.
No worries, man. Just wait till you'll know when the presentation's over, and you'll know. Most definitely.
It was last week. Too late now.
I'm scared.
Don't make me laugh before the intro. It's just not fair. If I wasn't cracking up, if I could play it deadpan next time, I'll say I'm scared too. But keep it calm, like not laugh. Oh, it's going to make me late. Welcome to BALLBUSTERS Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. Now, joining me this evening, we have, in no particular order, Paula, Betty, not Adam Meakin yet, Quantum Eraser, and Anthony, otherwise known as Sleeping Warrior. Very good to have you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Ahoy, hoy.
Get out.
Get out. That's not a very nice intro.
Ahoy hoy. There's only one Burke that uses that intro.
Planner Walk, right?
Let's not mention his name. It's a cuss word.
He got toe tagged.
He did get toe tagged.
He doesn't know what an independent variable is, the moron.
So if I said to you that gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, would you know what I was talking about?
Yeah. I think everybody knows what you're talking about with that sentence, right?
Well, I could put it in quote marks and say George Musa 2019, and then people would definitely know who said it and when it was said.
I don't think you need to. You must have been living under a rock for the last month if you don't know what we're referring to with that sentence.
It's a gift. It was a true gift, that interview. Wonderful, wonderful. But it's kept the subject alive that much longer. You know, obviously, you know, we want to see it in its death throes, and that's where we're at, watching a dying corpse of gravity. But, you know, as our foot's on its throat, we might as well continue to rip it to pieces, because there's still some nonsense that's left out in the ether. Bending of space-time, conceptual mediums, all the current nonsense. Yes, we don't have a force, but there's certainly a current rhetoric, would we not all agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Enthusiastic Ballbusters team.
They're hyper, boy. And listen, that's not the end that you mispronounced independent variable. Betty,
Yeah.
please.
Independent variable. Variable. It's
There you go. Thank you.
Independent variable.
variable.
Variable. Variable. Okay.
Yeah.
Variable.
Independent variable.
Ahoy, hoy.
So about that independent variable, that would be needed, wouldn't it, if you were talking science? And gravity, does it have those?
No. And we're going to get into that. Most Ricky Tick.
So there's no scientific evidence of gravity, and on pretty much every single flat earth debate we ask that exact question. Is there any scientific evidence of gravity? And alas, none is ever offered. Plenty of pseudoscience for the formerly known as a force, gravity, which was superseded by Einsteinian gravity, pseudo-Ramonian for space. Space-time! That bullshit medium that you never get to experience and absolutely in no way can manipulate.
And which quantum mechanics is pummeled into the incoherent oblivion. But now they just keep whistling past the graveyard. Space time! They don't even do that space time. They're on to the force. I mean, this is like Star Wars. Force, force, force. You could tell them 25 times, the next statement out of their mouth will be, well, what about the force?
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, but it's comical. There's a
Right,
lot of Luke
let's crack on.
Skywalkers out there on the ball side, right?
Say again?
There's a lot of Luke Skywalkers out on the ball side of this debate.
Oh, yeah. Those definitely, man.
You know, I was asked by somebody who shall remain nameless for his own protection, I guess. He asked, why is it that, like me, Quantum Eraser, Nathan, won't go on Jose's channel? And I says, well, I don't mind going on Jose's channel. It's not that we won't. It's that we choose not to. And it's not for any commercial or competitive reason. It's just because, and I'll be honest and I'll be blunt, it's because of the drongos that are on his panel. You can't have a conversation with them because they overspeak you continuously. And you can't talk to people that are overspeakers. They will. It's like Rumpus, like Sean Hawkins and Rumpus. They're of the same breed. You can't converse with somebody that continuously interrupts you. And that's the reason.
Yeah, it hasn't changed from the beginning. It's been that way from the start. It hasn't changed. It's the same thing. So,
Is there actually any?
You know,
Is there actually
Go ahead.
anybody there that we haven't been up against already on Flat Earth debate? I mean, is there any newbies there?
Oh, not that I know of, no.
So they've already been here. We already have had. You know, you could repeat one of those shows. Just go back to one of the old Flat Earth debates, and you'll see the same characters getting ripped to pieces.
Anyway, let's crack on.
Indeed, we've got a presentation to do. Let's not discuss debating shows when we've got Gravity to rip a new one. Let me know if you're ready to present, John.
ready?
Excellent. You're up.
Yeah, we talked about gravity. I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. I don't remember the episode, but like we've been talking about, gravity has been up to the front and in center of focus, especially since the George Musser interview, and everyone's been talking about it, man. So I decided to go ahead and do a gravity presentation again. This isn't the same gravity presentation. We'll go over some of the same topics, couple little twists. We won't spend too much time on Einsteinian gravity. We'll hit them a couple times, but not to the depth or length that we did the last time. If you want to see the quantum mechanics deconstruction of Einstein, just go back to the last gravity presentation and it's all there. So I'd like to start out with what science is. And you'll see why here in the next few minutes. So, from the University of Rochester Physics Labs, the scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation. That's a very important word right there. The requirement of the scientific method is systematic experimentation. That's what distinguishes science from everything else. From cakes, from chicken noodle soup, from badminton, you gotta have this to have science. It's just that simple. Right? So how do we get to experimentation? Well, to get to an experiment, you have to have a hypothesis, because an experiment is a hypothesis test. So let's see what these are. Scientific hypotheses. From California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll, arguing in The Edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They're the whole point. So what are they? From Lowell C., Strategic Thinking for Scientific Discovery, Becoming a Successful Scientist, Cambridge University. A scientific hypothesis is based on what? Cause and effect reasoning. A scientific hypothesis does not merely state X and Y may be related, but explains why they are related. From Drexel University, the scientific method is hypothesis-driven. Duh. One makes an educated guess to explain a cause and effect relationship. From Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD Biomedical Sciences, .co. A hypothesis is an educated guess based on an observation. Boy, it sounds like an echo. It's a prediction of what? Cause and effect. So, from the Institute of Physics, when planning an investigation, students need to identify the variables that they consider significant and then select the ones they want to look at for cause and effect. Shocking surprise. If possible, any other variables that will affect the outcome of the experiment need to be kept constant during the investigation. Constant, controlled. What are these? The independent variable, i.e. the cause, dependent variable, the effect, and control variables. Even Wiki, their alma mater, the Baltards' alma mater. An experiment is a procedure carried out to support, refute, or validate a hypothesis. Experiments provide insight into what? Cause and effect, by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is manipulated. Take a wild friggin' guess what that particular factor being manipulated is. Maybe it's the independent variable. Who knows? We'll keep it a secret. Let's tie a bow around gravity, both Newtonian, that's Reverend John Michel Cavendish, and Einsteinian's disheveled monkey, and pulverize them based on what we've just gone over up above here. And it's going to be real easy. From Martin Rees, astronomer royale with cheese, esteemed British cosmologist, astrophysicist, the University of Princeton Press. What causes gravity and mass? These questions still baffle all of us. So what in the world, guys? According to Professor Rees, does mass attracting mass cause gravity? Nope. According to Professor Rees, does space-time cause gravity? Nope. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all. You get the idea. Questions, comments?
So are you telling me they haven't got a cause to manipulate when they make up gravity?
Appears not.
Then it's not science.
Precisely.
Well, I have someone that commented to me today, I think, that was the fact that, I quote now from him, the fact that hypothesis can sometimes be based on cause and effect reasoning does not mean that the entirety of science is about cause and effect.
That's quite interesting. Didn't we just go over the basis of science?
Yeah, but he seems to have a problem with that. So I asked him for a couple of examples, and he has provided, but I didn't go over them yet, so we'll see what he brings up.
Well, you can't have science without experiment, and you can't have an experiment without a hypothesis, and you can't have a hypothesis without an observed phenomenon. So, I don't know. We're going to play the fantasy game?
Well, I asked him for the hypothesis and what tests were used, so I hope that he will be able to come back to me with examples and explanations for that.
I can't wait to see him.
Yeah.
Paula, any comments?
I think when people say things like that, they're confusing, they'll always give the example, say for, the computer you're using is the result of science, but it's more the result of engineering, which isn't necessarily science, because you're not trying to prove anything. You're trying to make something work, and you're just being creative, and you're using the basics that have been, the theories and whatnot to, for example, come up with, okay, I need a certain circuit to, the computers are always made of bits on and off. Well, that's made of components that you put a certain amount of voltage on to a certain device, like a diode or whatever, and it's going to have voltage at this point. That's engineering. That's based upon science. So when they say something like, if I was following Betty right, that is kind of an offshoot of that, really, but related, that people will always say, this is, you don't need the scientific method all the time because you can do science without it, but they're confusing engineering with science, just to try to make that observation.
Yeah. And more than that, I think they also think that discovering things in how things, they discovered, for example, in the cells, what's going on there, but that's more discovery than it is science in the sense of cause and effect. They call it science, but it isn't.
Precisely, you're answering a what is question rather than a cause and effect question. You got it.
Yeah, and then you have these people that think that stats or statistics is science too, like that bird humping thing with the birds, so many birds in so many areas and stuff. Yeah, that's.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You got birds humping statistics?
I think they might have.
And it doesn't help when people use terms like computer science. My son, for example, that was his major in college, computer science. It's because science has a semantic range like all other words do. And they will call something a science just because it's a field of study. And I think there's a lot of confusion caused by that use of terms.
Oh, can I clear that up? We're talking about natural science.
Yeah, physics.
Yeah.
Well, this is typically a discussion in regards to the world we live in, the physical and natural world. So I'm not that interested in how a computer functions in that regard. Knowledge, though scientific in terms of its etymology, might be accurate. We're talking about the physical and natural world. That's natural science.
Yeah, but what's more natural than birds humping, right?
Well, that might be the case, but establishing a cause of an effect is ultimately what we're talking about when we're establishing cause and effect relationships, which often we are levelled with in the discussion about our world and what causes things to happen. In the case of gravity, although I was going to say it would be useful if we have some, I don't know, catchy term for varying and manipulating an independent variable. If only we had one of those catchy phrases. I just can't think of one.
I know one. What about wiggle it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anthony sharp as a brick.
No, I was just being respectful. This is where the gravimeter fits into stuff, because Bob likes to push the idea that there is some kind of downwards acceleration force. And I agree with Bob in principle, there may well be something, but the problem is if you describe it in the terms of downward acceleration force or use the word gravity in any way whatsoever, the ballers immediately steal that context and say, well, we agree on everything then. And that's just the intellectual dishonesty of the ballers. So whilst Bob accepts gravimeters are proving that there is some kind of downwards acceleration force, this is where the cause and the effect comes into it, because it's the same with the ring laser gyros. If they are measuring something, the question is, what is it that they're measuring? And you have to wiggle it to prove that it's measuring the thing that you believe that it's measuring. You can't just claim it and then give it a name called gravimeter and then claim that it's measuring a downward acceleration force. You've got to prove it. So if it is measuring something, then prove it by demonstration. Otherwise, it's just a story and it's not science.
Yep.
Sweet. I'd like to get back to the birds humping. There's definitely a cause there. What's the cause of birds humping?
I don't know, good-looking nest.
Well, I know the effect is an egg.
No, well, that's the effect. What's the cause of the birds humping? But is birds humping a phenomena?
Well, you can think of it as one.
Never gets old. Right, can we move on from birds humping? Can we get back to the presentation because we're way off track? Shout out to Sam for the super chat. Thank you very much. Nathan, if you can come up with the other 34,950, you can spend it on one night on the ISS. Oh wow, that's like a contribution towards me going up to the ISS. I really appreciate it, but that light in the sky, we ain't ever going to that. The set, if that's going to get me on set, man, I'll take it. Ready when you are, John.
All right, I stopped a little bit early. That's all right. We can just roll right through here. This is an easy one. So, by the way, real scientific theories identify the cause of the effect. I know, shocking. And even Georgie fucking Mooser said 2019, oh no, not at all, to the question, from fat to fat Earth, we still don't fully know the complete cause of gravity. Okie dokie, the general theory of relativity is a theory of gravity, right? So, ballers, you have a scientific theory without a cause? I mean, that's like having water without hydrogen. For goodness sakes, people. You got nothing. Alice in Wonderland has more veracity. This gravity, this 9.81 meters per second squared, which is bullshit by itself, is merely a description of an effect, not a cause. And remember, no causey, no sciencey. Now to the coup de grace. Newtonian gravity. What's Newton's law? Balltards will invariably say or post this, right? We all know this. So many thousands of times have we seen that. That's not Newton's equation, folks. This is. You see any big G in here? This is a proportionality issue. These are two different equations. Just to let you know, this FG equals big G M1 M2 divided by R squared is Reverend John Mitchell Cavendish / CV Boy's little addition. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at this, I may be taking these two boneheads out and just leave it at CV Boy's door. And I'll show you that here in a second. This is 207 friggin' years after the Principia was published and 167 years after Newton's death. This isn't Newton's equation, folks. No. So big G, like I said, Newton's universal law of gravitation was published in the Principia July 5th, 1687. And this was the equation. You see big G in here, pretender clowns? Probably an aberration, right? Number two, Cavendish didn't conduct his alleged non-experiment, which should be known as the Reverend John Michel Cavendish Experiment, until 1798. That's 111 years after the publication of Newton's Principia and 71 years after Newton's death. Number three, Cavendish.
Oh, we've lost audio from you, John.
Not on mute, he must have dropped.
No, because we've still got a screen share. Just lost the mic.
He can't hear us, can he?
I don't think so. Can you hear us, John? He can't respond because he's lost his mic.
Yeah, but he's not moving around, is he?
Maybe his screen froze, maybe.
Maybe his screen froze
I
because
reckon
it has dropped and it'll temporarily.
Well, rather than have dead air until we work out what's going on, should I just jump in and do my presentation?
That might be an idea.
Because it could be 3 minutes, it could be 10 minutes before he gets back.
That's true.
Let's go with the assumption that he's going to be a few minutes, and rather than have dead air, let's. I'll just rack up my thing. Hang on.
Well, while you're doing that, then while you're getting prepped for that, fortunately, John got to the end of the most critical part of the presentation, which was him presenting the difference between those two equations. So he's got it. Hopefully, he'll reiterate it. I'm in a way kind of pleased, or half pleased, because he can start at that again and reiterate it, hopefully to an even larger audience as the audience grows. But yeah, if you're ready to go, Anthony, mic's all yours.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Evening, Tony.
Oh, hello, Adam. That's quite conveniently timed also. Good to have you. The
I
Adam
literally just caught the end there. So what's he just demonstrating the difference between Cavendish's formula and Newtonian's?
On the contrary,
Newton.
so it would seem that the Cavendish experiment, in quotations, is devoid from any of the equations. So it's this boy's guide that's actually given us the equation, and it's considerably after the death of Newton. So the that was going to be the question I asked, actually. Well, where does the actual Cavendish quote-unquote experiment fit into all this? Is it literally just a circus sideshow? Because it's seeming that way. Do you know what I mean? So we'll find out, hopefully, when John returns. But he's been sitting on this for quite some time, which is frustrating if he's just lost his connection at the most critical point. But he did actually make the point, which is good. So yes. Right, I can see you're scrolling away, Anthony. Did you want me to present you?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let me know when we're presenting.
Okay, yeah, you're presenting now.
Okay, so this is, whilst John's away, this is to raise awareness to what Globebusters have just released. I love this guy. His name's Julius Sumner Miller. He died in the 80s. He's gone now, so don't worry, the trolls can't get to him. But what Bob's done here is beautiful, because he's put, for those physics-challenged individuals who believe that no natural downward acceleration exists and relative density alone explains up and down. So he's obviously referring to the people that are pro-relative density, and there's quite a lot of us, and we get it. This video, this is going to appeal to everybody that is understanding how relative density works. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then you don't get it. If this resonates with you, then you do get it, and this is going to be brilliant. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get it to cue it up, and then I'm going to read my message to Bob first, because Globebusters has got, he has to authorize every message. It could be a while before mine gets authorized, or it may never get authorized. So in the absence of it not being authorized for some reason, I'm going to read to you what I've put. And then I've put, and for those that cannot disagree properly and suck with evidence, claiming gravimeters are proof of something need to demonstrate what it's actually measuring with experiment. Claiming it is only half of the battle. Demonstrating it is the fundamental second part. No demo, no proof. Simples. Science, bro. Independent variable, cause, effect, phenomenon. P.S. From 1755 and until he finishes the sentence, and I don't care what the scale reads, it reads something. Why does he add that line when it's totally unnecessary? That one poignant addition should tell you something, and I bet you'll simply dismiss it. But why does he add that line if it's totally unnecessary? And I'm going to play the clip in a minute so you can see it. But basically, if there's not a contentious issue, there doesn't need to be any further explanation. He would literally just say when he puts a weight on, this weighs X. But he doesn't say that. He makes 3 additional comments that are totally unnecessary. I continue. He adds the line because he knows it isn't measuring weight or mass. If he thought it was measuring weight or mass, he wouldn't add, quote, we say it weighs the weight of the body, but I really don't know what that means. For a PhD level professor, for him to say that, which is his second sentence, in addition to what he's already said, seems to be really perverse, almost. Funny, relative density supporters totally get why he says that. So, Bob, can you explain why he's so weaselly with that section? I'd love to hear what your explanation is for that. And then finally, when he adds, without any need whatsoever, nor did Newton. The guy clearly knows that gravity is not a force. Absolutely no need at all for this commentary to be in. All he had to say from the start was it weighed X, like, I don't know, a kilogram or whatever. Come on, Bob, you know you need to join our side. They all float down here, obviously citing from the clown thing called IT by Stephen King when he's in the drain. Anyway, so what was the timestamp? 1755. So it's only 3 sentences, and I want you to listen to what he says here, because all he has to say when he's putting this weight on is that it weighs X. But listen to how he doesn't say that. He goes further. When I pass the sound through now, it'll be one of these two. It might even be that one.
Can you make it full screen?
Maybe. I'll go with that one first because I need to make sure that the sound comes through.
Here is a scale.
Oh, hang on. It's double speed.
Yeah, the sound came through.
Did the sound come through then?
Yeah, but also so does mine.
Just give me a sound check.
On
Everything's
which
fine,
I hang
just
a
play
weight.
it.
What? Nathan, did the sound come through or not?
Yes.
The second law. Here is a scale on which I hang a weight. And I don't care what the scale reads, it reads something. We say it reads the weight of the body, but I really don't know what that means. Nor did Newton, because as we believe, gravitational forces, the earth pulls on this, stretches the scale. But remember, even Newton said, I offer no hypothesis concerning gravitation.
So I only went into that. Did you hear that okay, by the way?
Yes, but you now need to change the sound back because you're getting horrendous feedback.
Is that working?
Check. Yeah, that's fine now. No, we still
So-
get horrendous feedback from you.
Is that it?
No. Yep, all good.
So what he's just demonstrated there is numerous sentences. I only picked on the first 3, but there was 4 or 5 there, none of which were necessary to make the point that he was saying that there is 10 pounds or 10 whatever units these are. But if you think back to when I did my density experiment with the egg in the water and I used my ppm meter, I made a conscious point to say that, and I don't know what that number means. It doesn't mean anything. And the reason why I said that is to emphasize the relativity of the point. And the ballers just said, how can you claim that this is density if you don't even know what it's relating to? And that just shows that they don't understand what's going on. But my point is this. This guy at 17 minutes and 55 seconds spends a good 30 seconds or so, just under 30 seconds. Basically, rather than saying that this weighs 10 pounds or whatever, he goes into great detail for why whatever this is weighing, he doesn't understand it. A professor. But if you understand relative density, you'll understand and resonate absolutely with what he's saying here, because it's measuring the disparity between the weight of the candle wick or whatever this thing is at the bottom relative to the medium it's in. You'll get it. You'll understand it. And it'll just sit there, and you'll just sit there with a smile on your face. But if you're a relative density denier, you'll have no idea why he's saying this, and you'll think that we're overanalyzing it. So you've got the paradigm to come to the conclusion of, well, what is he referencing when he says this stuff? Is he referencing some attack on Newton? Is he referencing relative density? Why is he making a big deal over something that all he had to say was, when we put the weight on, it weighs 10? That's all he had to say. So go and watch this video from Globebusters. Look at 1755 and play it back 2 or 3 times for the next 30 seconds. It's absolutely brilliant. The guy knows that there's no such thing as gravity. He knows that Newton was wrong. And he knows that these things that we're measuring the mass of, we're not really measuring the mass. We're measuring how far out of disequilibrium the object is. And it's the net effect of the disequilibrium. That's what we're really measuring. Now, that's going to take a while for it to sink in for people if you're not with this conversation. But I watched I can't remember, what was his name now? Somebody that's come on the show, forgive me, I can't remember his name. He was on Non-Sex Show, and he was talking about relative density, and he was absolutely brilliant. But because there was 2v1, he was able to be outmuscled wrongly, in my opinion. But people are getting this now. People on our side realize that relative density does kind of explain an awful lot. If it's in a state of disequilibrium relative to the medium, then it's going to have what we call weight. But it's just how far away it is from its own relative equilibrium position. Like Arwin talks about relative density disequilibrium. Me and Arwin are on the same page now. So anyway, that's me done. So just check out that Globebusters video.
Paula, anything to add to that?
Not really. I think the point is made that this professor, and I used to watch him back in the day, that this was, he always had such a good way of explaining things, and he didn't care as much about theoretical physics as he did with practical, everyday, mechanical physics. And what he's saying, the point that Anthony made is that they don't know what is actually causing the vertical force. I think vertical force is a better name because sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. It depends on the density, the interaction. I've been posting a thing in the chat that it was a quote from physicsclassroom.com that a force is a push or pull on an object resulting from object's interaction with another object, and forces only exist as a result of an interaction. So there's the way materials or substances behave when they're within a certain distance of each other is what makes the force. It's the inherent energy in each of the objects that makes the force. So that's about as close as I think we're ever going to get to it, cause of quote unquote gravity. But this interaction isn't always down, and it isn't always vertical. You can have things go sideways, like when a gas disperses. So, but certain types of things tend to go down and certain other things tend to go up. And this is that interaction because of disequilibrium. So it all ties together, I think.
The other thing to mention as well is when they talk about, even when Musa talked with Craig, George Musa was asked by Craig, we still don't really know the cause of gravity. And he says, no, not at all. It's almost as if they're telling you that it's the way it is because that's design. In other words, it's that way because it's been made that way. And it's really the proof that something's created it this way. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not meaning to push this into a religious context, but they can't say that they don't know what's causing this stuff if they're going to call it gravity, because it's either mass attracting mass, bendy space-time, or it's not. If they don't know what's causing gravity, it's not bendy space-time and it's not mass attracting mass. They might as well just admit that it must be the way it's been designed, and that must mean there's a creator.
Yeah, it's just a law. That's what I see.
Yeah, it's a law of nature because that's the way it's been designed.
Yeah, it searches out where it belongs, right? As opposed to the density or gas or liquids or things. Just sorts itself out, and that's how I don't see it as a force at all. Personally,
I don't think anybody sees it as a force anymore because we've hammered that. You can think it's not a force, but you can think of it as a force. That point's been hammered by so many people now. It's become an ongoing joke now, and I've heard other people referencing it as well in chat, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I want to welcome back Quantum Eraser. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, man? How long did I go on before I
Uh,
realized I was cut?
Well, you got the main point in, but I'm in a way I'm slightly glad because it means I can give it a bit of a drum roll before you start the whole point over because it was something you've been sat on for a while. But I'll just get our remarks from Adam and then we'll move back on to your presentation if that's good by you.
That's fine.
Adam, you there?
Yeah.
Any comments?
Just a quick. Yeah, I'd echo what had been said regarding Tony's bit. All I would say is, as he was kind of alluding to, I think, from my perspective, when he talked about it weighs whatever.
Anthony, excuse me a second. Anthony, yeah, you are echoing, Adam. Anthony, can you please go on mute?
Is that better if I talk? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So my only point really is that he was talking about the reading. And all I would say is that reading is generated initially by setting the apparatus up, hanging a thing of 1 kilogram, whatever, off of it, and then on the scale drawing a 1. The scale is generated from reality. It isn't generated via the mathematics of the supposed Newtonian forces acting on it. We use it in reality because it's derived of reality. That scale, whatever you want to consider the concept, is derived through experience, not mathematics.
Well said. Okay, so I'm now going to give a proper drum roll. So as I say, Quantum Eraser has been sat on this for several months and he's been waiting for someone to rear their ugly head in the debates and mention the equation. They just haven't. That's the bottom line. There's been a couple of hints at it, and I've even tried to feed a couple of people to John in the debates, and he's gone, no, they are not worthy. But it's made its way onto Ballbusters, because I think since it was discussed and, due for a pummeling on the debates, I don't think Ballbusters was even around when you first had this, right, John?
No. Hey, before you get to that, Adam, can you please go on mute?
Oh, sorry, son. Sorry.
Because you're causing the feedback.
I caught it again. Sorry, pal.
Thanks.
I'll mic up I'll put my headphones on as well.
Sorry about ruining that, Nathan. Go on.
It's all right. Sometimes, you're going to have a bit of production talk in the middle of these live shows. Just ignore it in the audience. That didn't just happen. we didn't just have a session of feedback.
But they can think of it as happening.
They can think of it as happening. But no, that did actually just happen. Anyway,
Before
right, let's
it
get back
happens
onto...
again, then, is that better now, John? Is that everything controlled?
I still hear...
They're the snakes. I can't help them.
If you can, just mute in Skype. That'll definitely solve the problem. Right, I've got your backup presented, John. And I'll do the drum roll again. So this is an important point. I'll shut up.
Hey, now, did we get past the no causey, no sciencey part?
That's about where we lost you, but I want you to start from the equation again. So start with Mr. Boyle and Cavendish Mitchell.
Okay, yeah. Newtonian gravity, like I said, if you ask what's Newton's law, then invariably from any of the ball-tards, you're going to get this equation, right? You're just going to get it. We've seen it thousands of times. Everyone knows what's coming. But that's not Newton. This isn't Newton's equation. This is. So it looks very different. There's no big G and no equal sign. This is a proportion. Big difference than that equal sign right there. And like I said, no G, no big G. This big G came from, and like I said, I don't know if you caught it, Reverend John Michel and Cavendish, and I'm considering it didn't come from them. So I'm considering dropping that little maneuver from them because they had nothing to do with it. I'm leaving this anchor at CV Boyce because that was his little addition. It was 207 years after the Principia was published and 167 years after Newton's death. So big G, or what they say is Newton's universal law of gravitation, was published in the Principia July 5th, 1687. This was the equation, like I said. You see big G in here anywhere, pretender clowns? No, you don't. Cavendish didn't conduct his alleged non-experiment, which should be known as the Reverend John Mitchell Cavendish Experiment, until 1798. That's 111 years after the publication of Newton's Principia and 71 years after Newton's death. Number 3, Cavendish didn't calculate a numerical value for G or M. Let's take a look at this. So we got Lauren Hodges, Department of Physics and Astronomy, Iowa State University. And listen, I never looked up here. I'm telling you, I didn't. So they're copying my Michelle Cavendish experiment. I'm standing by it. Let's take a look at what they got here. So Cavendish's paper, right in this vicinity, folks. Cavendish's paper did not disappoint me in this respect. There were 3 major surprises awaiting me. First, Cavendish did not determine G or M. He determined the average density of the Earth. Wait a second here. He didn't determine M, which is mass. We're going to get into that a little further in the presentation. But he determined the average density of the Earth. How did he manage that little magic trick? Density is mass over volume. You need mass. We'll get back to that here in a second. Number 2, second, while he presents his raw data very completely and carefully, Cavendish made an error in his I don't really care, because he didn't calculate G or M. Number 3, the third and most surprisingly, the famous Cavendish experiment and Cavendish apparatus were not designed by Cavendish, by geologist, the Reverend John Michell, right down here. You see him? So it's appropriately named. You know what? Let's get back to this. I want to see how you figure density without mass. That'd be a good maneuver. Let's go in there and find it. Finding the density of objects without measuring mass. All right. We'll go to the Institute of Physics. Got the abstract up here. Let's see how we can do this. A simple method based on the moment of forces. Really. And Archimedes Principle is described for finding density without measuring the mass or volume of an object. This is going to be a neat trick. The method involves balancing 2 unknown objects of mass 1 and mass 2 on each side of a pivot on a meter roll and measuring their corresponding moment arms. Really? So I want to see somebody who put the Earth on one side of a pivot on a meter rule, because that's how you need to do it. This is quite preposterous, folks. I mean, the more we get into this, the more nonsense we find. So the bastardization of Newton's law, big G, didn't make its appearance until 207 years after the Principia was published. So wait for it. It's not Newton's law, for fuck's sake. Moreover, the Baltards ascribe gravity to Newton. Let's take a look at this. From Stanford University, in a letter to Dr. Richard Bentley on February 25th, 1692, Isaac Newton says, "'Tis inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without mediation of something else which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be if gravitation, in the sense of Epicurus, be essential and inherent in it. And this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me. That gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into. Gravity must be caused by an agent, acting constantly according to certain laws, but whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left to the consideration of my readers. So I don't know why you guys are ascribing gravity to Newton. He told you directly not to do it. And this last little bit must be caused by an agent. Guess what he's talking about? God. An agent. And he's kind of saying, he's kind of straddling a fence right here by putting this material or immaterial in there. I can't speak to that. It sounds like fence straddling to me, probably because of the moment of the times. So, turn out the lights, you mindless parroting wiki pretender clowns. You're toast. You have absolutely no friggin' clue as to what you're talking about. That's what you get for mindlessly parroting wiki or priest from your ball-tarred, spinning space monkey congregation. Let's stop right there.
Cool. Now, plenty of weight behind it, and plenty of cowbell, as you would put it. Anything to add, Paula?
Did you say plenty of weight behind it? Yeah, when you actually read this stuff and how people use it, people wonder, why are we going over this? And it's because the ball earthers continually say those words. Newton's law of gravity and Einstein's law of gravity, and they'll say, well, Newton we can use for, most practical purposes. But what you just read there is no, I'm not telling you what's causing it. I'm just watching what happens. That's how you can make a scientific law. Is it's just observation and saying this always happens without exception. That's a scientific law. And then they can derive mathematical relationships from that. And that's all Newton did. But looking for what makes it happen, that's been the problem. And that's the whole reason why Einstein had to do what he did. Well, one of the reasons, to try to actually find a cause. And all he did was move the goalposts to the trampoline with a bowling ball in the middle, which explains nothing at all. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it seems pretty obvious to me what Newton is saying there.
Betty, you got anything to add?
Yeah, it's fascinating how along the times things have been add on and it's like someone started the story and phrases are being added to it to make it work and to make it in a good happy ending. But it is a house of cards, basically.
I phrase that as they smear on yet another layer of bullshit. Right, you Adam, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. And John, if you just scroll back down to Newton's quote there, I think he was, I think we all agree, a very intelligent man. And I think he's, in his writings here, realised that what he's proposing isn't backable. It's not even really describable by him. But I think he's smart enough to realise that people are going to ascribe certain things to it, and in his own writing he asks you not to do so. So I would suggest probably 300 years later he's turning in his grave at what's been written in his name, what has been quoted. And the formula is probably the cutest example of the misquote.
Anthony?
Anthony left.
Has he got stuff to get on with? Well, he got to do his presentation. I'm sure he's very pleased. In that case, I've got nothing to add. John, if you want to carry on, you're more than welcome.
So, Baltards, please provide that formula with big G in it and the equal sign to me. I want you to do it. Because you're all busted, man. You're all busting for parroting the wrong pseudoscience. Let's just make that perfectly clear. All right, yeah, we can move on. So we're going to go back to the Iowa State and just stress this Reverend John Mitchell. The evidence is clear that Mitchell and Cavendish both deserve credit for the Cavendish experiment, which should probably be referred to as the Mitchell-Cavendish experiment. It was Michel who thought the experiment up, including inventing the torsion balance that is at the heart of the experiment. It was Michel who built the original apparatus for the experiment, and the apparatus clearly capable of producing the results desired. The fact that the purpose of the experiment was to determine the specific density or the specific gravity, i.e. density of the Earth, suggests that geology, rather than theoretical physics, was the motivation. So, like I said, I want to hear it now. If you're going to mention the Cavendish non-experiment, I want the Reverend John Michel Cavendish non-experiment. You got to get that right, folks. So, to the gravity hypothesis from the Principia, and somebody mentioned this before. No, I think it was Anthony's video that he was just mentioning this. From the Principia, I have not as yet been able to discover the reason for these properties of gravity from phenomena, and I do not feign hypotheses. For whatever is not deduced from the phenomena must be called a hypothesis, and hypotheses, whether metaphysical or physical, or based on occult qualities, or mechanical, have no place in experimental philosophy. In this philosophy, particular propositions are inferred from the phenomena and afterwards rendered general by induction. This thing is so pregnant. I can spend an hour just on this. I'm not going to. We already talked about induction a few days ago. Has nothing whatsoever to do with the scientific method. The scientific method is purely what? Abduction and deduction. I just want to concentrate on this one right here because a lot of this is occult experimental philosophy. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I do not feign hypotheses, right? He makes no hypothesis because he can't. It's nonsensical. It's not science. Remember, California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll arguing in The Edge, hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They are the whole point. So, Sean, Newton said he has no hypotheses or hypothesis for gravity. Ergo, how can it be friggin' scientific then? Hello, McFly. Moreover, the Ballers scientific community, aka pseudo-scientific non-community, doesn't follow Newtonian or Cavendish gravity. Listen, I'm using Newtonian here just so everyone can identify and the distinction. Like I said, I'm pulling Newtonian out of this. So, from George Musser, the favorite quote of the day, Einstein created his general theory of relativity, which provides our modern understanding of gravity, with the express purpose of expunging non-locality from physics. Isaac Newton's gravity acted at a distance as if by magic, and general relativity snapped the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time and not an invisible force. Not an invisible force gives rise to gravitational attraction. So what's he talking about here? Relativity snapped the wand in two, the magic wand. Well, what wand is that? Well, it's the magic of Isaac Newton's gravity. This is real simple to reconcile, folks. I don't know what the big deal was with this. I mean, George Musser couldn't get out of this. There's no way he could. Gravity is not a force. Let's just pound this in for you, okay? From Caltech, Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity in 1915, the prototype of all modern gravitational theories. Its crucial ingredient, involving a colossal intellectual jump, is the concept of gravitation not as a force, but as a manifestation of the curvature of space-time. Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. George Mooser, 2019, see Fat to Fat Earth. Gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. Even the Alma Mater Wiki, gravity is most accurately described by the general theory of relativity proposed by Albert Einstein in 1915, which describes gravity not as a force. And by the way, real scientific theories don't describe, they explain. From the universe today, in general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses. From the University of California, strictly speaking, gravity is not a force. From physics.org, according to this theory, gravity is not a force. From New Scientist, so although the Earth appears to be pulled towards the sun by gravity, there is no such force. From Physics Libre Text, the answer is that gravitation is what? Not a force between two objects. From the Physics Hypertext book, gravity isn't a force. Do you get this? So now we got, after all this, Wonder Twin powers activate. We got Physics for Kids and NASA. I think NASA got it from Physics for Kids, be that as it may. So from NASA, gravity, an invisible force that pulls objects toward each other. Anything that has mass also has gravity. Objects with more mass have more gravity. Earth's gravity comes from all its mass. And Physics for Kids, Ducksters.com. Gravity is the mysterious force. It's not just a force now. It's a mysterious force. Booga, booga, booga. That makes everything fall down towards the Earth. It falls down, goes boom, boom. Only in Shangri-La, folks, can we base reality on paradoxical contradictions. Comments, questions?
Paula?
That earlier statement about snapping the wand and getting away from an invisible force at a distance. Well, is space-time visible? You know, if that's the antidote to an invisible, mysterious force, then show me space-time, because I can't see it.
FYI, space-time is conceptual. Betty?
But you can see it.
Or you can think of it as real, or potentially bendable, but it's conceptual. Betty?
Yeah, I want to see the wizard with these mysterious and mystic forces. I want to see that.
Yes, we all want to meet the Wizard of Narnia, but
Yeah, the one behind the curtain.
Yeah, but space is fake, so alas. Adam?
Just a quick question. So, John, there isn't a mystical force between objects at distance interacting then?
I don't know. I don't know how many citations I just gave you.
Yeah. I'm just thinking. I'll just to confirm that wand is definitely snapped. Then there's numerous from various sources, not just Georgie Buckamusa, who's citing it. You know what I mean? These are all from credible sources you cited across the spectrum of the physics world that are all quite categorically stating it is not a force.
And guess what we're going to hear tomorrow? The force of gravity.
There's nothing else. There is one comment I've actually got, if you don't mind. Can you get back to the quote from the New Scientist? It spoke of falling around suns, or words to that effect. Here we go. You want to read it, if you may?
Yes. So although Earth appears to be pulled towards the sun by gravity, there is no such force.
So that was probably the only exception, but that actually had the presupposition that we are falling around the light in the sky. see traversing the sky.
Yeah, it's the only one that made any connection to anything outside of it. Yes.
No worries. Just wanted to make that clear to anybody who may hang on to that particular part of it, that that is entirely based on a presupposition that Earth is a sphere and the sky is a vacuum and that we are falling. That is the presuppositional sphere. Earth is falling around the light that we see traversing above our head.
I want to make a correction. I said tomorrow we're going to hear force. It's not going to make it till tomorrow. It's going to make it to the when we go to Discord.
Well, that's a nice segue. So there is a link below this video if you do want to join. I think there is some gaps still left on the Discord panel. I can't see it in the tiny little OBS box, but yes, I believe there are some gaps left. If you did want to join and ask some questions, we will open this up to the public towards the end of the presentation. So just FYI. Do you want to continue, John?
Yeah, let's roll.
You're up.
So the Reverend John Michel, Cavendish, CV Boys, and Weird Al's gravity are not the same. Number one, scientific theories never, ever, ever explain laws. You tossers. Newtonian gravity and Einstein gravity are mutually exclusive. Listen, if a scientific theory explained the law, then that law wouldn't be a law anymore. Okay? And since you guys are all on, I've heard so many people say this. But listen, I want to hear or see or post a citation of the theory of the laws of thermodynamics. Can I see that? Because that's essentially, by analogy, what you're saying here. It's quite preposterous. Number two, Newtonian gravity is a force. Remember this from above? Einsteinian gravity is not a force. Number three, Newtonian, the law of superposition applies. Einsteinian, the law of superposition doesn't apply. Number four, they're not even in the same geometry, for crying out loud. Newtonian gravity is Euclidean 3 space, whereas Einsteinian gravity is pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. Newtonian gravity is instantaneous actions at a distance. Einsteinian gravity is limited to the speed of light. Listen, drunken sailors and field goal posts have more in common than Newton's and Einstein's fairy tales. Just to let you know, I'm still using Newton. That's just for everyone, so everyone can identify what we're talking about here. We're going to slowly transition over to CV Boys over the next few months. So why on earth are you still appealing to Newtonian, Cavendish, CV Boys, John Michel gravity? All that these crayon munching wiki parroters are doing is taking an effect. Things fall to the ground at 9.81 meters per second, which is bullshit, like I said before, and then conclude by mere declaration gravity is the cause. It's a non sequitur fallacy on its face. They use this value, again, 9.81 meters per second squared, which is bullshit, and put it into their fairy tale descriptive equations and say it works. Then they say, voila, gravity exists. The attribution or cause of this effect has not been identified, isolated. That is scientifically validated. So every time you say gravity, whether you like it or not, as soon as you say or post gravity, you immediately invoke a cause, either mass attracting mass or space-time, right? So you need a new word. I got one, ducal slopelgerts. Clowns. So mass attracting mass, the hypothesis, and this one cracks me up. We hear, how many times have we heard this? Well, they don't say it. We have to get them. We have to hold them by the hand, and they finally get to it. If mass, that's the hypothesis. There's our hypothesis. If mass, then mass attracts mass. That's what it is. It's so hilarious right on its face. I mean, it's a Mr. Magoo circle jerk of the millennium. Independent variable, mass. Dependent variable, mass attracts mass. Yeah, nice. Kaitis Venetas. This is your actual hypothesis. If gravity exists, then larger masses will attract smaller masses. Even though you can't define mass, we're going to get to that here in a few minutes. This is an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. on its face. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. Have a nice day. P.S. You'd fail 5th grade general science. Let's stop right there. Questions, comments?
And mass doesn't attract mass.
And what is mass?
Ah, you got. I was on mute. You're lucky. You're faster than me.
Go on, you can go first then, Betty.
Yeah, well, we had a guy in Discord also going over mass and moles and stuff. It's so convoluted that nobody can really define mass, and they get stuck in these terminologies, and they still don't want to use it. And if you can't be certain what mass is, how can you use it in an equation? Whatever equation.
Okay,
So-
but whatever they'd like to define it, with the exception of inertia, you know, stuff doesn't attract other stuff. Just in nature, I'm not seeing boulders attracting boulders or anything like that. That doesn't happen. That was my point. Yeah, I get you. They give a, I've forgotten the fallacy now, equivocation fallacy, correct?
Yes.
So they define it in many different ways. But, Paula?
All I know is that math attracts math.
Math attracts math.
Yes.
Yes. Maths attracts maths. Maths. I almost snuck a mass in there.
I
Hey.
got your joke for the geeks.
Hey, be careful before. Wait a second, Adam. Be careful because you said what attracts each other in nature. We just talked about that before.
Yeah. Birds.
Birds humping.
Ah, right. That's the attraction. I see. No. Adam?
You're getting into mass in a minute, I assume, John. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All I'll comment on is that, again, I think Isaac Newton would have been offended by the way in which the phrase Newtonian gravity was used in those previous descriptions. I'm sure he made it quite clear that wasn't his point.
Okay, so this is the... are we going to start explaining things for ballers now? Should it be baller time to pay attention because we're going to talk about mass? Or is that later?
They should have been paying attention the whole time.
Oh, yeah, but you've got to actually tell them when the main bit of their ingredient that they need to argue this point is coming up, and I think it is. Yes, I've got it on screen. Go ahead, John.
All right, please define mass because you know that's what's going to happen every time they come on. You're going to hear somebody say, well, define mass. And in the beginning, they used to, complain about, oh, it's all semantics. It's just semantics. They've stopped doing that recently, but I'm still going to keep this in here because I think it's important. So, yeah, it is semantics. Because what is semantics? Word definitions. That's how we communicate, right? That's the Socratic method. You have to define terms, or I could be talking about an apple and you're thinking about orangutan, right? So we have to define terms. From Anne-Marie Helmestein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences from ThoughtCo. Words have precise meanings in science. From Dr. Mary Schweitzer, paleontologist, North Carolina State. Exactly. That's one of the things I drive my students crazy on. Words count. Words are important. Choose your words carefully. So that's what we're going to do. Here we go. So what do we get? The mass definition. We got problems already, right? Because we have two different definitions for the same thing. Both of these are from Wikipedia, their alma mater. Mass is both a property of a physical body and a measure of its resistance to acceleration. A change in its state of motion when a net force is applied. Ruh-roh, Shaggy. Inertia is the resistance of any physical object to any change in its velocity. This includes changes to the object's speed or direction of motion. These definitions, folks, are the same friggin' thing, just dressed up a little bit differently. But as you can see, the same friggin' thing. Then the Elmer Fudd sophists try and weasel their way out here with velocity and acceleration. The velocity of an object refers to the speed in a specific direction. Velocity is nothing but the rate of change of displacement. On the other hand, acceleration is the rate of change of velocity with respect to time. So acceleration, units of measure, meters or distance over seconds squared, and velocity, units of measure, meters of distance over seconds. If you're traveling at a constant rate, you have velocity but no acceleration. If you're traveling and your rate is changing, you have velocity and acceleration. This is lovely, but who friggin' cares? This is the compelling factor in the matter. If something is accelerating, does it have motion? Yeah. If something has velocity, does it have motion? Yeah. That's it. They're the same. It's over. Definition of mass number 2. Look, we got serious problems with equivocation fallacies. You guys need to look up what that term means. So, from New York University, mass is a measurement of the amount of matter something contains. Rot-row Shaggy. From Chemistry World, the mole became part of the International System of Units, the SI, in 1971. Currently, it is defined as the amount of substance that contains as many entities as there are in 12 grams of carbon-12. These are the same, right? These are friggin' the same. Just because mole is a specified amount of substance that contains doesn't nullify the fact that each, i.e. mole and per the crayon munchers, mass, are entirely based on amount of matter, substance that something contains, right? By the way, from the Royal Society of Chemistry, moreover, studies have shown that the amount of substance is often incorrectly identified with mass. This ends it. I mean, I just could have posted this and been done with it. But where's the fun in that? And by the way, the new they recently redefined the mole. It contains exactly 6.022140076 times 10 to the 23rd elementary entities, not carbon-12. Just to let you know. The tangled webs you mindless parroters weave. Let's put an exclamation point on this mess. What is Mass by Edwin Taylor and Professor John Wheeler. Nature does not offer us any concept as the amount of matter. History has struck down every proposal to define such a term. Even if we could count the number of atoms or by any other counting method, try to evaluate the amount of matter, that number would not equal mass. Do you guys get it? Doubtful. Questions, comments?
Oh, I remember this, John, from early days at uni, as a young buck with all these ideas presented to your university professors, and I always remember being told, Adam, you're going to be a chemist. Forget it all. It's all physicist nonsense. Weight is mass. You live on the earth. And leave it alone, because it's just a head bender for me that the only reason it's there is to try and make what we experience in reality weight, and not their definition of it, but what something weighs, as to try and turn it into some multiple of 9.8 meters so that it can be convoluted. But like I said, for me, it was always explained, leave it well alone. You're a chemist. Just it is what it weighs on your balance. And I've never heard a definition I agree with regards to mass either.
Yeah,
With
because
regards-
there isn't it. Yeah, because there isn't any. That's
With
why.
regards to moles and people's familiarity with the term moles are a useful way of calculating things for outcome, but again, they're not in any way anything other than a unit. They're not a definition of mass itself. They're just another they're just another unit, like grams, kilograms. It's just a useful way of calculating things when you're dealing in very small numbers. It's a way of, because you're able to multiply it, so it's just a way of dealing with small numbers simply. It's just another, not saying another unit, not metric, but another unit.
Yeah, you're calculating a certain amount of matter or substance.
Yeah, but it's just another way, particularly in biological systems, that it's just another nomenclature for things. It isn't anything other than really any different to any other measurement. It's not anything unique that is, yes, it is linked to the atoms themselves, the number of them, or theoretical number of them, and that's the point. It is, again, a theoretical derivative, this, based on calculation and the concept of a model. But in of itself, the point with the mole is it doesn't lend to any definition of mass.
Right. It's just a convention.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. You need more. You need this in chemistry and biochemistry, for goodness sakes. But the key part, it's a certain amount of substance. Right? It's just a certain amount of substance. Just because it's a certain amount of substance doesn't disannul the amount of substance to which you knuckleheads appeal to. I hope that's getting through. I doubt it.
Paula, have you got anything you want to add before we move on with the presentation?
Yeah, just that the equivocation fallacy isn't the only fallacy going on between mass and inertia. It's also self-contradictory. As someone pointed out, I forget who it was on a panel in the last week or so, said that since mass is basically inertia, resistance to change of motion, and gravity is mass attracting mass, they're two opposite things. Is it resisting or attracting? So I think that was a good point that I can't remember who brought it out, but it is self-contradictory. It isn't just that they are changing terms without any objective difference between them. It's because they're two opposite, mutually exclusive things. Is it resisting or is it attracting? It can't be both at the same time.
Betty? There?
Yeah, I'm confused with all these terminologies and stuff. But I'm also stuck on the word substance now. So what's the substance? Is that the dirt? What are we talking about?
Well, the substance now, they've redefined it. The new definition is that number with Avogadro's number with elementary entities. It's not based on carbon-12 anymore.
Okay, so it can be any kind of molecules then?
Elementary particles.
Okay. It opens up for more and more questions, I think. But yeah, I don't know what it is still. So with all these definitions, we get more than we can muster, and we still don't know what it is. So
I'm with you, Betty. I remember when the definition changed. I think it was either very early 19 or back in 2018. I forget when, but when John did one of the presentations, it was in the transitional stages, and he had to explain it to me twice, and I still don't fully understand it. Someone's quizzing me in the chat saying, go back to the definition of it with C12, and I'm like, well, that isn't the definition anymore. I mean, John has gone through it once already, and I'm sure it will obviously come up again. Quite why, I don't know, but there we go. I'm with you, Betty.
Yeah, and if they can't change it that easily, what was it worth to begin with? And what will it end up in?
Well, yeah, that was the next thing, but exactly.
Like I said, it's just a convention. Don't get all bent out of shape over this. The important part, it's the amount of substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
That's the important part that connects both definitions.
Right, exactly, to bring it back on track. In terms of mass and mole, it's the amount of stuff It's just that simple.
Precisely.
Okay, do you want to... I'll bring your presentation back up. Let's move on.
All right, let me give a warning right now to all the ballers. Listen, you guys should turn away. If you're going to listen to this and watch this, then I suggest to get your friggin' therapist on the line with you, because you're going to need it after this. You ready? Listen to this closely. Professor Sankar, Chair of Physics, Yale. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things. Okay? Let that sink in. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things. So, and it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen later. That quantum mechanics doesn't apply to big things. I'm telling you, somebody's going to say it. Unbelievable. Now here comes the really painful part. From Richard Feynman. Listen carefully. The discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behavior of light, and then in the behavior of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right. Let me say that again. Which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right and had to be modified with other laws, which are quantum laws of motion. Did you all get that? Let me say it one more time. From Richard Feynman, the laws of motion of Newton were not right. From the Chair of Physics at Yale again. All right, so today we're going to shoot down Newtonian mechanics and Maxwell's theory. We're like the press. We build somebody up only to destroy them. First, I want to tell you, this is again Professor Shankar from Yale. First, I want to tell you what goes wrong with Newtonian mechanics. The double slit experiment is a problem. That's what puts the nail in the coffin for Newtonian physics. Now, like I said before with citations, these citations are all well and good, right? And they come from certifiable characters. However, they are merely baseless assertions at this point. So get ready. Here comes the cowbell. Ready, clowns? So we have a double slit experiment with a Newtonian particle, an electron. We close one slit and fire a bevy of electrons and we get 10 hits at point A. We close that slit and open the other slit and fire a bevy of electrons and get 8 hits at point A. The Newtonian prediction would be if we fired the same bevy of electrons with both slits open, we must get 18 hits at point A. What do we get? We get a big fat 0. And what does that mean? That is the end of Newtonian physics. I don't know. What does this mean? That is the end of Newtonian physics. Must be a mystery. Let's get our abacus out. So, in relation to Newtonian or classical mechanics, that's what you're going to hear. And every time you hear classical, that's Newtonian mechanics. What does shoot down the nail in the coffin, destroy, that is the end of, and the laws of motion of Newton were not right. What does that mean, baltards? What is particularly confusing about this? Have a nice day. Questions, comments?
Hey, you know, I put on my globe head hat and all I heard was la 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 while you said all of that.
That's a good technique.
It's not so much a globe head hat, but maybe a lack of understanding hat. The first citation is to make a statement as to equilibrate the laws of quantum and the real world. There's no difference. And then the second part uses a quantum experiment to destroy Newtonian mechanics. And I just wondered if you could just elaborate why that experiment destroys Newtonian mechanics a bit.
What do you mean why? The Newtonian prediction would be if we fired the same bevy of electrons
exactly
with
that.
both slits open, we must get 18 hits at point A. Yeah, that's it. That's why. But we don't. There's my explanation.
You know what they'll do is just play the quote mining cherry picking card. And around we go.
The quote mining? What quote mining?
They'll just, you listed all those quotes, about the nail in the coffin and all that, and they'll just say, quote mining.
Yeah, they don't know what quote mining is, and we already established they have no clue what cherry picking is either. So I love it. I love it when they do that, especially when they haven't read any of the transcripts or documents that I've put in here and say quote mining. That's priceless. It's special.
You there?
Yeah, I have nothing to add to this. We get into difficult topics anyway, and we had a presentation on this already, so you can always go back to that one.
A Sleeping Warrior has a question in the chat. If gravity is not a force, what is causing tides if it isn't the gravitational pull from the moon?
Invisible three-toed gnomes.
Right, I've got you back on screen.
Why'd you snicker? Why'd you snicker at that? My explanation is just as scientifically valid as any of the ballers' explanation, right?
I was laughing with you.
Okay, let's go over this real quick. As I said, the mindless retort from the pummeling up here is quantum mechanics doesn't apply to big things. Remember, I laid the groundwork, the foundation before we started. I'll say it again. From Professor Shankar, the chair of physics at Yale, the laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. Here's the important point for you. You don't have separate laws for big and small things. It ain't going to matter. They're just going to bring it up again. From Lapquick's Experimental Non-Classicality of an Indivisible Quantum System from Nature. Our results illustrate a deep incompatibility between quantum mechanics and classical physics that cannot in any way result from entanglement. So like I said, this is the key word right here. Classical, this is Newtonian physics. Late last year, Bruckner and Koffler showed that it does not matter how many particles are around or how large an object is. Quantum mechanics always holds true. The reason we see our world as we do is because what we use to observe it. The human body is just barely adequate measuring device. Quantum mechanics does not always wash itself out. But to observe its effects for larger and larger objects, we would need more and more accurate measurement devices. We just do not have the sensitivity to observe the quantum effects around us. From the Bulletin of the American Physical Society. The current record holder for quantum interference is 10,000 atomic mass units. We're well beyond single photons and electrons here, folks. And I love this one. A metal paddle 30 micrometers long, that's trillions of atoms. From Nature, a team of scientists has succeeded in putting an object large enough to be visible to the naked eye into a mixed quantum state of moving and not moving. Goodbye, Newton. Sing it with me now. Turn out the lights. Party's
over.
They say that all good things must end. Call it a night. Did you get it?
I think that last point probably exemplifies what I was trying to make out previously. So Newton's stuff works on the big scale. I'm trying to get this right, John, in my head, so just humour me a minute. So Newton's stuff works on the big scale, but it doesn't.
No. Got it wrong. It appears.
Yeah.
to
Let
work
me get there then.
on the big
Let me get to the end of the sentence. It appears to work on the big scale. Clearly doesn't on the small, and is not applicable. The converse for quantum is it works on both scales, but we've got an issue in terms of being able to validate it up to scales. But we have achieved something which demonstrates quantum behavior on the visible scale, therefore destroying classical, demonstrating that the classical in of itself is clearly incorrect, because whilst it might have been in some cases a good approximation, it doesn't actually represent what's going off, and therefore.
Exactly. You got it. Yep.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I don't know if there's a bit more to your presentation, but ladies, have either of you got anything to add?
No, not really.
No.
Okay.
It's gonna end here real quick.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go briefly over Einstein. We're not gonna go over everything, but we're coming close to the end.
Okay, well, I'll do one last plug to the Discord server then. So if you do want to challenge anything that's been said, ask any questions or anything to that sort of fashion, then there is a Discord link in the info box below this video. Feel free to join. We will come to the Discord server once the presentation's over, and we've got a few remarks from the BALLBUSTERS team. You're on screen, John. Go ahead.
Yes, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, I'm not going to go over the grown-up falsification. I'm just going to go over the primary school falsification for Einstein, both special and general relativity. I have it in here. I have the whole grown-up falsification, but like I said, we're not going to go over that. Go back to the last gravity presentation, and it'll have the whole spiel in there. Okay? So, relativity, special relativity and general relativity, via different mechanisms, speed versus gravity, can dilate, bend, warp time? Are you kidding me? The primary school falsification. Time is a conceptual relationship between two motions. Specifically, it's based on alleged single rotation of the Earth on its axis in respect to the sun a day. It's a concept, non-physical. It is without chemical formula, structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin. No millielectron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. No dimensionality or orthogonality. And no direction or location. You can't put time in a jar and paint it red. I mean, come on now, let's reason together. Can you dilate, bend, or warp non-physical concepts? Is it your contention that if you have poison ivy on the brain that you could scratch it by thinking of sandpaper? Freedom is a concept also. Can you bend that? That which you are using to measure isn't the thing that you're measuring. A football field is 100 yards long, but a football field isn't yardsticks. If I bend the yardstick, does the football field bend also? So if something affects, say, cesium atomic clocks, or any modern clock for that matter, does that then ipso facto mean the Earth's alleged rotation in relation to the sun is affected? These two mythomathematical fairy tales, special relativity and general relativity, were falsified 30 seconds after their respective publications by third graders at recess, for goodness sakes. In toto, each are massive reification fallacies on nuclear steroids. So, like I said, we're not going to go into the quantum mechanics pummeling, but we'll just take a look at these two because these two do the job. From David Bohm, renowned professor of physics and a personal friend of Einstein, by the way. One could see that relativity and quantum mechanics, the two most fundamental theories of matter, really contradict each other in the sense that relativity is local, it's causal, it's determined, it's continuous, and quantum mechanics is just the opposite. You couldn't get any more different. From Caltech, the final contradiction. General relativity and quantum field theory are incompatible. I don't know what else to say here. I can't break this down any further. So it's time to wake up, pretender clowns. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
That last quote was an interview then.
Which one? The David Boehm interview? Yes.
Wow. Imagine saying that. I wonder what the question that preceded it was.
No, I can't remember. You know, in fact, this is old, we're going old timey. I think this was David Suzuki. I think that's what his name. Remember back in the day when they used to have interviews with scientists on, and I don't even think it was called Nova back then. I think it was just PBS did them. I'm not sure it was so long ago, but I can go ahead and we'll wait till afterwards. I'll go ahead and look this back up again. I'm pretty sure it was that Suzuki character.
Paula, you got any closing remarks, and then we'll go to the Discord server.
Not other than to say again, as he just stated, that this is a reification fallacy to make time the cause of anything. I don't know how many times somebody in chat keeps insisting that a car moving at a certain speed, which presupposes it's in motion, is going a certain distance because time is the cause. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, we had that recently from, was it Sean Hufford? That said time was the cause of all things, basically.
Yeah. It's the magic wand. Time plus nothing equals everything.
Indeed, it's the independent variable to end all independent variables, right? I'll come to you in a minute, Adam. Betty, have you got anything to add?
No.
Oh, closing remarks, because we're going to go to the Discord server soon.
Closing remarks. Oh, that, yeah. Well, but here still people say that they change it a little bit with now that gravity is not a force, but it causes a force. So the time bending concept is causing a force. That's what we hear. And on this topic with the marrying quantum physics with general relativity, that it's all mathematical that they try to do this. And the other high studied people that are trying to marry these two bachelors. But yeah, I give them
it's the ultimate conundrum, isn't it? Because you've got gravity is not force, and the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time gives rise to a non-force known as gravity.
Yeah.
Isn't that an amazing story? Luke, the force is with you. Adam, you're going to get the last words before we go to the
that's
Discord
actually
chaos.
A perfect link, Nathan, to the point I was going to make. It's post-Einstein and all this nonsense, the mainstream media, the main sci-fi thing has been to try and turn time into not just this conceptual medium, but into something of substance that we can all start to imagine. We can time travel, we can bend, we can manipulate time. It isn't something just imagined, that we perceive. And I think that's integral in our acceptance as we move from one bullshit paradigm of a force, a magical force between two objects. The only way to keep the heliocentric model together wasn't to subvert back to reality, but was to kind of, a bit like the Big Bang, shift the goalposts and move any point of argument, discourse, or conjecture and criticism about it into this new imaginary medium where you can do whatever you want with maths in it, because it's completely imaginary. Unlike height, depth, and breadth, which are at least real, this medium that they then start to manipulate their proof of their modeling is completely imaginary and undisprovable.
Right. I can never quite say it correctly. Pseudo-Riemannian, I think, is the correct term.
Yeah.
Force space.
Pseudo-Riemannian force space. Yeah, it's a completely different geometry than Euclidean.
Indeed. Right.
Built out of
Yeah,
solid
yep.
bullshit.
Yeah, so I have one last comment before you end, unless you want to end with it, Nathan. I just want one last one after you're done.
So do you need me to present you?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, folks, this is what we got now. This is the hierarchy of pseudoscience quackademia. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about paleontology, archaeology, anthropology, geology, evolutionary biology, whatever that is. Yes, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, astronomy, astrophysics, and cosmology. This is the picture right here. They're all pretender clowns, the hierarchy. And if you listen to pretender clowns seriously telling you about the nature of your reality, then you become one of these. It's a very strict metamorphosis. And we see it every day. That's all I got.
Okay, I don't know if Betty wants to jump in on Discord so she can hopefully control some of the chaos. But we've got Kosal. Oh, let's move my mic so I can introduce these people. Is it El Brocchia, Pinocchio, Righteous Force, Right the Hand, and a couple of others, Zanek, and I can't. Too many syllables. It's too late in the UK.
Unusual veracity.
Veracity.
There.
That's the one. It's the one I said the same thing to last time. My screen's quite some distance. That's my excuse. Okay, right. You take charge, Betty. Unmute whoever you feel necessary, and then just introduce them so they know they've been unmuted, if you would.
Yeah, I've unmuted Unusual Veracity because he was here for the beginning. So maybe he wants to talk or can talk. So, no.
No worries. I don't mind if this slows things down a little bit. Obviously, I want the public to have a right to reply on these shows, so.
Mm-hmm.
Lost one. This is lost three. Are you lost two over?
Should I go to the next? Should I just try Pinocchio?
Well, that one there talks. Well, I can try. Maybe he will change his mind.
Go ahead, Pinocchio. You're unmuted if you got a question or anything to add.
Slap him in the back. Maybe he'll hack up that furball.
Well, I have unmuted Right the Hand. Maybe he wants to say something. Let's see if it works. Hangout.
Right the Hand, you there? They're all staying on mute. Might be a very short public part of the show. We'll see.
Well, we have Zanek, so that's the baller.
I'm just listening.
Have you got anything you wanted to ask, Right the Hand?
Nope.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay.
Try Righteous Force.
It's unmuted.
Just get Zanuck to talk.
Yeah, he was toe tagged Friday though, so be careful.
Says Zanuck tapping away on his keyboard. Have you got something you want to ask, Zanuck?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to talk to you all.
Have you listened to the presentation?
I did, most of it.
Okay, what's your thoughts?
Oh, he's usually right on with a lot of those basic definitions of, and I do have objection to some of the contentions to what we've been talking about, such as, and I don't want to go into the mass versus bull, just because that's so pedantic, it's unbelievable, but I think I found a word, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday for that discussion. Any amount of matter is mass. That way you can narrow it down. Words do matter, right? So any amount of matter is mass. And a mole is a specific number. He said that very clearly. So I think we're all in agreement. We should move on from that. Do you not agree?
Any doesn't change the amount of substance or the amount of matter, right? Your little any doesn't change anything.
Any is important, right? Because any amount of matter is mass. Any. One particle,
any amount of
1,000
matter,
particles.
right? That's a mole.
Any amount of matter is mass, yes.
Your amount of substance or amount of matter is the definition of mole.
No, the mole is a specific number or amount of matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. And I already explained that during the presentation.
Sorry,
rewind and go back to the
a
presentation.
dozen eggs? Okay, let's go to the next question.
You feel free. Go ahead. Ask another question.
Quantum physics. Quantum physics versus more broad Newtonian physics. They both. You're right. I might have misspoke yesterday saying they're different, and you're absolutely right by calling me out on that, because quantum mechanics does play a role in all things we see on larger scales. The problem is the scale of things that are larger are so much larger that it's difficult to apply quantum mechanics to most things in the Newtonian world.
No. Quantum mechanics doesn't play a role. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. That's the role.
Shout out to Tina Baker for hitting the super chat. Thank you very much indeed for your support.
Don't try to weasel. We're listening to every word that's coming out of your mouth. So you're not going to weasel here, just to let you know.
You're absolutely right. Everything's based on quantum mechanics. I agree with you. But if you were to use quantum mechanics to apply corrections to the spinning of a ballerina, you're talking about 100 zeros to the nth degree of the classical.
God.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going from pulling rabbits out of the hats to ballerinas. Is this all you baltards got? How about shoes on top of the table?
It's an example of physics. And you're right, it does play a role, but it's a very small role.
What plays a role?
If you make the corrections in quantum mechanics to something spinning,
plays a role.
Yes.
What plays a role?
A foundational role.
Oh my goodness!
Sorry, what plays a role? That's not a yes or no question.
Quantum physics is a foundational role of physics.
So what you're saying, it's kind of fundamental then, as opposed to a small role.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd agree.
So you
understand
then,
that it's on a very small level. So those, yes, go ahead.
At a very small, fundamental, crucial to everything kind of role. Yeah.
It's a correction. Well, can you give me a quantum physics or quantum dynamics law or instance or example?
What do you want?
Give me an example of something that is fundamentally true in the world of quantum physics.
The collapse of the wave function is always, ever sourced by the knowledge of the Witch path information. How you like that one?
And then tell me how that affects a spinning gyroscope.
What?
What?
What the hell?
I'm just
hold
saying.
on. Let me just give this for the audience in case they're thinking that made some logical sense. Right, someone lays out a recipe for beef stew, and afterwards you say, "Tell me how that relates to mowing my lawn."
Well, you have pushing, when you break it down to pushing the lawnmower and the force and the acceleration and the mass, all that, because you can still use that as well, if you'd like. These are all observations. These are all phenomena.
So what, in the respect that every single law is a quantum mechanical law, you can somehow loosely relate it to this example specifically? Well, you can do that if you want to, but asking us to do it just seems nonsensical.
Well, I can't relate it because it's too small of a factor.
Okay.
The wave theory in quantum physics is a very small correction to any Newtonian or Einsteinian observation.
Wave theory.
I see what he's doing. Sorry, you go ahead,
Wave.
John.
Okay.
Wave theory? What are you talking about? Is that a physical wave?
Yes, like water, like the waves you see in water. Yes.
Are wave functions physical waves?
Wave functions are physical waves. Yes.
You gotta
Uh-uh.
be on
No.
some serious medication.
What's-
Do you know what? Oh, go ahead.
Why do you think they've got this word function afterwards? What do you think a function is?
Function is something that's said usually in math, and I know you guys don't believe in math, so why do we need to go there?
You said it very stuttery. Something used in mathematics.
Something used in mathematics.
And is mathematics reality?
But you're asking me about functions, and isn't that mathematics?
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
asked, hold on. When asked, is a wave function real? You said yes.
I said the waves were real. You asked about the function.
Well, that's not what we're talking about. Yeah, waves are real. There's waves at the seaside, but that's not what we're specifically talking about. Right. Causes wave function collapse. That's very specific, isn't it? That's what science is like. It's strange that. Always very specific about their terminology. Weird that. My point being, when you talk about mass, it's very loosely defined with very, loose, several meanings. Anyway, in this instance, we've got the word function strapped on a mathematical term. So we're not talking about physical waves. We're talking about mathematical.
Okay, but you understand about quantum mechanic waves, right?
What, probability distribution?
Yes.
Right, so not physical. What? They're not physical, okay? Hello?
Okay, I'm just thinking about. I don't know enough about it actually. Get any deeper than what I just went.
Well, let's try again. What's a function? Is a function something physical? Is it like, can a surf a function?
No, you can't surf a function.
Right, because it's mathematical.
Correct.
So is a wave function... Am I going to get my surfboard out for that wave function or what?
If you're an electron, you might.
So I'm going to... Let me get it right.
No,
you think
right.
I can surf on a probability
It's a
distribution?
mathematical formula.
You think you can surf on a probability distribution? Really? That sounds like nonsense, my friend. No, you can't. It's not physical.
Okay.
It's a description of something.
Well, the quantum mechanic waves, as you know, don't correspond to any wavy motion of the electron. But why can't we see the effect within like larger objects, like two basketballs or other larger objects?
Well, you can. They've scaled up the double slit. You can. It doesn't just work with tiny particles like light, for example.
Yeah.
You can scale it up.
The scale is 10 to the minus 32 meters. If you scale up
Didn't I just already go over this in the presentation and talked about the human was a barely adequate, adequate measuring device? I already answered this.
Then we're good. I agree with you, and there's no argument.
Okay, I was about to say it sounds like we're all in agreement anyway. So
yeah, I agree.
Is there anything else, Zanuck?
And I'll be the first to admit I did not get my degree in quantum mechanics. So
fair enough.
So if you did,
well, we're all in agrement. It's all good. Happy days so far. You've been surprisingly conciliatory, Zanuck. It's been amazing. If we don't get any other...
what was the next question that the gal was just... I think she asked something before.
Thanks. You don't need to take over hosting the show, though. That's all good. I can still cope. Thank you. Is there anybody else in Discord that has anything to add other than Zanuck?
Zanuck, do you now concede that gravity is...
Gravity causes a force.
Well, no, gravity is not a force. A not force doesn't give rise to a force. Let's just get that clear.
Gravity is the cause of the force.
No, gravity's not a force. I'll say it again. Just listen. I'll say it slower. A non-force isn't going to give rise to a force. Okay?
How are you classifying non-force? Are you talking about pseudo-forces?
What do you know? Do you know what the word not means?
I do.
Do you know what the word force means?
I do.
Now stick an A between those two.
Can I
You're
ask you
there,
if
my
you were-
friend. You're there. That little chuckle, that was you understanding what I said. This is great.
I know what you said, but is it correct? Is it correct? Are you saying that the force is a pseudo force or is not a
Oh,
force?
no worries. I can give you a quote from an astrophysicist.
Yes, and hopefully you understand what he said.
Yeah, no worries. I'll quote him.
His words have meaning.
Gravity is not a force.
Correct, and he is
George-
very correct. It
Well,
causes
there you
a
go.
force.
What's the problem? It's not giving rise to a
Something that
force.
causes something is not the something.
Oh, he's got
something
very
that causes
triggered.
something is not
He's
the
now
something. Words
talking
matter.
over my every reply. Are you by chance a ball-believing zealot?
No, that's not true.
That's not my question.
A force is not. Gravity is not the force. Gravity causes the force.
No. I'll say this again. I'll say it even slower.
Okay, slower would make a difference probably.
Well, I've said it twice already.
But I've said it back to you. You told me gravity is a fake force or is not a
Right.
force. And I said gravity causes the force.
Yeah, and
There's
I
a
say
difference.
a non-force will not give rise to a force.
Can I ask you why you're calling it a non-force?
Because gravity is not a force. George Musa, 2019, astrophysicist.
Correct.
Didn't
It
you
is
listen
a
to the
cause of a force.
presentation?
It is not the force itself.
No, it's just not a force. I'll maybe if I say it
I-
another
I
way,
ca-
I'll
I
try it
caused
different.
the
Let me just
bike
try it
to
one more
move. I'm
time
not the
differently.
bike.
I won't use gravity because it triggers you to talk over me. So, right, a car is not a carrot. Do you understand that?
I am not a bike.
Right.
But I
And
caused the bike to
gravity,
move.
hold on, we're nearly there. And gravity is not a force.
Correct.
Right.
Gravity
Now,
causes
hold
the
on, I'm not
force.
quite there. I'm leading you. Now, a carrot is not going to give rise to a car. Because it's not a car.
It'll give rise to better eyesight.
Maybe. Now,
But it is not eyesight.
now
Carrot is not
gravity,
eyesight, but it
hold
causes
on. Gravity in this example is our carrot. And the car is the force. Now, in the same way, the carrot's not going to become a car, gravity's not going to become a force. Because it's not a force. Okay, sunshine?
Really? Okay.
That's really,
So let's go-
really.
Let's go to magnetism then. Something we all can relate to. Two
No,
magnets.
no. We're not talking
Does
about
the magnet
magnetism.
cause the force,
no,
or is the magnet
no,
the
no,
force?
no, no, no.
Is the magnet
Let's
the
not-
force?
No, no, no,
Is the magnet-
no. Let's not equivocate. Let's just have
Well,
you
ask
repeat
the
it back to us, just at least once.
You've talked about carrots and cows, and I can't talk about magnets, really?
Not
Okay,
carrots
fine.
and
Can I ask
cows.
a question?
Carrots and cars. Cars. That is my English
Carrots and
accent that
cows?
terrible.
Carrots and something.
Okay, Zanuck, maybe go and get a cup of coffee. Calm down. I know this is a lot to take in, but gravity is not a force.
Correct. It causes a force.
Can I
No,
ask Yannick a question?
no. You see, the carrot can't become a car, and gravity can't become a force because it's not a force. And not a force doesn't mean it becomes a
Am I right about-
force
Am I the bike?
or makes a force. It's not a force.
I'm not a bike, but I can cause a bike to move.
That's lovely.
You're
I'd
using
like
false
to ask
equivalence.
a question.
Anyway, we're kind of done, Zanuck. I know this is a lot to take in. It's obviously
Let me touch the fence,
distressing.
man. He had a
you.
question for me.
Yeah, Zanuck, can a non-person cause anything?
No.
Thank you.
Has anybody else on the Discord server got anything to add?
I've got a quick question for Zanuck. What new force does the force that isn't a force that is gravity cause?
Of course.
Mass to accelerate. That's a great question. You laugh, but it's a great question. So this force that is caused by gravity causes mass to accelerate at a specific rate proportional to its mass.
I didn't ask what it did. I said, what force is it? I appreciate you're
It's a
just
force that
then
accelerates.
moving the effect of the previous force of gravity that isn't a force anymore into the new force with the same definition. But
The force
I'm
present in
asking,
Newton's-
what is this new force? What is its cause? What's its causation? Where does
cause is
it
gravity.
manifest? From.
But before the
Are
question
you
gets
asking if mass
answered,
attracting mass? Is that what you want me to say?
I'm really
Yes,
sorry.
no.
Just before it gets answered, because I don't think maybe Adam, you don't understand. Gravity is not a force. Adam.
No. I thought we'd agreed that bit with Zanuck. I thought his supposition was that the non-force that was gravity was creating a force, and I was asking what this new force was that was created by the non-force that was a force. It isn't a force.
Force that
But you
causes
can think of it
acceleration
as a
in the mass.
My bad. I misunderstood your misunderstanding. Go ahead.
Say it over again.
I can't. Really?
No, I understood the question. He's asking what
The type of force it is?
Go on,
It's an attraction force. It's an attraction. That's the force.
Between
two
what?
objects. Two masses.
caused by.
I see what you're saying now. I got it. Yeah, it's an attraction. Such as if I punch somebody, it's a punching force. If I do the other things can be an aerodynamic force. This is a attractive force. So yes, you're absolutely right. Good question.
Okay, so when I go into a fight and I hit somebody,
No. Hold on. Before the Discord server get into Discord, right? Well, I'm just want to get clarity. So what you're saying is that gravity gives rise to an attraction between masses, a force, correct?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Gravity is not a force.
Gravity causes the force. I gave you the definition of the force. What more do you want? I apply the force to an object, it accelerates it. Measurably, predictably, repeatably. Based
What's
on
the
its mass.
hypothesis?
Yes, and I can give you evidence to that hypothesis to reinforce that it is
Okay.
measurable, predictable, and repeatable.
No worries, John.
Oh, hold on.
It would be a great way to round out the show because obviously Zanuck believes he has scientific evidence of gravity. Let's go. Happy days.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Just wait one. Let me share my screen.
Bring it up.
You know, we did this 3 times yesterday, and he failed each time.
That's okay.
You know that, right?
Because we got on the semantics direction, didn't we?
No.
I'm not going to criticize tenacity.
Go ahead.
Hold on a second.
I'll hide you again while you scroll to look for it.
Oh, we still have your last one up here, Zanuck. I didn't erase it. The half a mountain missing over distance.
Beautiful. Look
Yes.
at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Everyone else loved it. Everyone else loves it too.
The Earth curve causes half mountain missing over distance. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, let me get rid of these, even though I don't want to get rid of them.
Are you showing it on the YouTube or are you on BALLBUSTERS? Or are you talking on Discord?
The public will get to see. Obviously, if you do want to watch this on the live feed, it's only a couple of seconds behind. But make sure you watch. You mute the watching page, the YouTube.
So
page.
you haven't changed it yet. All I have is your
forgot.
football
I
field.
usually erase them after the end of the show. I just forgot. I didn't want to punk you out or anything. It wasn't premeditated.
Look,
Me?
In all seriousness, look, this could be a big moment, man. I might have to change the housekeeping questions. That could require quite a significant amount of editing. And look, man, I'm scared.
Yeah, I doubt it. The fearless nation?
All right.
You kidding
Sorry,
me?
it's an inside joke.
It's just an inside joke, man. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. Natural phenomena. Observe, please.
About gravity, of course.
Mountain hidden behind curve.
No. About gravity.
No.
Bro.
Gravity. Come on, stay focused, Zanuck.
Well, he said he was talking about the mountain curve. Okay, gravity.
Yeah, that was the previous one.
Ball,
You are now on
object,
to
1
gravity.
kilogram object falling.
Evidence.
1 kilogram object falling.
You're being rumpus by Betty. Hold on, Betty.
Sorry.
Zanuck, we're hoping
Yes.
to get your, this. Let me get it straight. Adam did clarify it earlier. This not a force giving rise to a force that causes the old-fashioned mass-attracting mass force. Correct?
Correct.
Right. What's the observed phenomena here?
1 kilogram block falling 9.8 meters per second when dropped.
Hold on. Sorry, John. I know you're still writing it down. You've got the cause in there.
The observation is something falling at 9.8 meters per second squared.
You missed off 2 words that you had earlier. You had 2 extra words in there.
Oh, I gave the weight. I gave the mass.
You
Sorry.
said
when dropped.
When dropped.
When dropped.
Oh, well, there's your cause.
That's still the part of the observation. I drop something and accelerates at 9.8 meters per second squared.
Yeah, cause and effect in one statement. That's my point.
So by dropping it, I caused it accelerating.
Yeah, there's your cause. You dropped it. Presumably, you had to pick it up first. Hold on.
You wouldn't need to find the cause then, right?
You've got no need for. There's no need for science here. You've already got the cause.
So I drop something, and it causes.
You started. Your first word was the cause again. You dropped
cause,
it.
Really?
Yeah, you dropped it. There's your cause, my friend.
I can change the variables.
Okay, let me just ask him one more question, and then I'll pass it to you, Betty. Okay. Sorry. Do you find hovering in midair a 1 kilogram weight to drop, or do you have to remove it from its equilibrium and force it into disequilibrium prior to you dropping it?
That's actually a correct way to look at it, Nathan. That's actually very true. You have to move it.
There's your cause.
Hold on. So my cause. So that means I picked it up, and it required a force to lift it up a distance, which gave it. I had to consume energy to make that force over a distance. So
this
now
is
I have
very exciting.
Potential.
Look, this is elementary stuff that I'm sure you might be grappling with, but it's not very interesting for the audience. Yes, you going through the motions of figuring out how to pick something up isn't interesting. It's not very interesting. No offense.
Yeah, but let's not get bogged down by picking up and people picking things up. Let's do the apple which falls from the tree. That's a natural phenomenon.
But the tree had to grow.
What was that? I didn't see what you said.
The tree had to grow. It didn't magically appear from nothing, Betty. You know as well as I do that trees don't just render themselves.
Through osmosis and fusion,
but it is still a phenomenon. We see an apple drop. Even Newton was contemplating it.
He's ruining a perfectly good quantum mechanics joke. Damn it.
Stop rumpusing Betty.
Go ahead, Betty. You want him to go ahead with the apple?
Do it. I want to see what he makes of it. I mean, come on. Let's get him to do this.
Well, yeah, let's stick with the one that he's doing. When I drop a 1 kilogram block, it accelerates at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's what he said, correct?
Let's broaden the observation. Let's say we pick up the 1 kilogram block up 1 foot, and then we drop it and watch it fall. That's the observation.
Yeah, they're letting you have it now. They've overruled me, Zanuck.
Yeah, because we want to get somewhere. We're getting hungry. Okay. So that's the dependent variable. The 1 kilogram block accelerates at 9.8 meters per second squared. What is the cause, i.e., what is the independent variable?
The force due to gravity.
But that's what you're attempting to prove.
No, we're proving it's something that falls when I drop it.
It's a begging the question fallacy. You're trying to prove gravity. That's not your independent variable.
No. That's not what he said. He just said we're trying to prove something drops when I pick it up. Drop it. Oh my god.
At a specific rate.
Sorry,
and with
it's what I said originally. You don't need science for this. You pick it up, then you drop it, cause and effect in the original statement. It's all there, mate.
Observations were made in the early days and that didn't have science. They still observed them. Then later they used science to prove why they happened.
What happened? Why when you pick something up and drop it, it drops? Yeah. Had you not picked it up and dropped it, it would just be sat there. We don't observe 1 kilogram weights naturally falling. You know what we do observe naturally? We observe them in equilibrium. That's what we observe, right? Until you come along. So, yeah, you're just rumpusing me. Until you come along.
You're right.
What an asshole. Gotta close the Discord line
Nathan,
just to make my statement. Until this guy comes along, the 1 kilogram weight's not doing anything. We do not observe 1 kilogram weights flying through the air towards the ground and go, look, let's measure the effect. We need to establish the cause of this 9.8 meters per second squared. Because bloody hell, there's raining 1 kilogram blocks. We've got to explain this shit quick. No, they're in equilibrium until you come along and take them out of equilibrium and then start asking questions. So you remove yourself as the cause, even though you very overtly state it right at the beginning. You pick it up, cause established.
Yeah, and how do I wiggle that force of gravity? How do I
Everything
manipulate
has
that?
equal and opposite forces acting on it. Unless there's a disparity in force, nothing moves. So everything's in equilibrium. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, problem solved. So we don't have disequilibrium to measure and figure out as a phenomena until you come along and start forcing things out of equilibrium and then saying, oh, what causes this to go back to equilibrium? Hold on a second. Why was it out of equilibrium in the first instance? Oh, you, the cause of that shit that you want to now attribute a downward force to, surprisingly. I wonder how many times you'll make this example with a helium balloon.
Same principles. You have buoyancy force being greater than the downward force due to gravity.
There's another force.
How many
There's
forces
always a
are
balance.
there?
There's always forces in pairs. Always.
So let me get it straight. You'll presuppose the force of up, right?
You
But
can
the
measure
force.
it.
Hold
You
on.
can measure the
Hold
force.
on. He just doesn't like it. Fundies, man. So you'll presuppose the force of up. Call it buoyancy. And then what's the cause of buoyancy? Oh, it's gravity. Well, what's gravity? Well, it's a non-force that gives rise to an old-fashioned force of mass, which you can't define. You equivocate it with both mole and inertia, and its attraction. And where's this observed? In an old-fashioned circus show.
I
Shake
still
the apple
don't
tree
know
and it falls.
how you are going to manipulate that force due to gravity.
I don't have to manipulate it. It's based on the mass.
The what?
Yeah.
He says he doesn't have to manipulate it. It's based on the maths.
Oh wow. Okay.
Not
Why
to
do I observe
manipulate.
that?
Why wouldn't
math?
you try to do that?
I could change the force. Yes. Oh, you're right. I can manipulate the force. Sure.
Luke,
Hey, Zach,
let me know how you
said
manipulate
gravity
the
causes-
force. Hold on, we got Luke
I
Skywalker
can
here.
change the force.
Tell us how
I
you
can change the
manipulate.
force acting on the apple. Yes, I can change the force.
How can you do that?
I can put a string on it and pull it down with a pulley.
Let me get it straight. You do it. It's always-
He's gravity.
Yeah, he is the force. Basically,
Gravity.
yeah. We all have the force within us to pick shit up and drop it. It's amazing.
And that's that agent.
Zanuck, you said gravity causes the force. Do you still believe
Gravity
that?
does cause the force. You want me to cause?
Okay,
Let me change the force cause of gravity.
okay. All right. So when you put the string and pull it down, are you gravity?
That's
No,
what I
I'm
said.
adding a force in addition to gravity.
In
Also,
addition to
force
gravity,
and
it
a
also is
force.
a force.
That's not really a force.
Another force, yes, another force. I've had a bottle rocket on it, and I can accelerate it faster than gravity would accelerate it.
Okay, listen, guys, listen. On behalf of the audience, I would like to request mercy on Zanuck.
Indeed. I think this is probably going to be my useful opportunity, unless there's anything that you ballbusters want to add.
Well, maybe John can read the hypothesis back and just give an overview what we got now.
Sure, yeah. Am I still screen sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so natural phenomena observed from Zenek. When I drop a 1 kilogram block, it accelerates at 9.8 meters per second squared. The alternative hypothesis, the force due to gravity causes a 1 kilogram block to accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared. The independent variable, the cause which has to be varied and manipulated, is the force due to gravity. The dependent variable is the 1 kilogram block falling at 9.8 meters per second squared. The evaluation is the force of gravity is what he's attempting to prove. So that's a begging the question fallacy. We can end it right there. You can't vary and manipulate gravity because he don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is.
I say it's three toad gnomes.
Yeah, so this is not. This is invalid to at the least. You know, just for a mercy, just to have mercy. This is invalid.
Yeah,
on its
overall,
face.
it's a begging the question fallacy. But Paula and Adam, we're going to round out the live show, and I'm going to ask people if they're watching on the Nathan Oakley channel to stay tuned. But do you want to round out anything before I close out the live show?
I'll stick a bit in. Cheers again, John. Another nice bit of presentation, mate. The only thing, you've got a touch of the Mick West there. You're on a bit shy on it. I see you've added something at the bottom of your calculator, your non sequitur tautology test. So
that's been there for a while.
We just don't often get that far. That's the problem with that.
Well, I just noticed it. I like that, mate. But no, cheers for another good evening, gents and ladies. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Paula, you can get the last word, then I'm going to round out the live show.
I think Paula's at dinner.
Oh, she's disappeared. Well, that's going to be my perfect opportunity. Yes, indeed. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley, but for the live audience, a huge, massive, enormous thank you for tuning in. Hopefully sharing, subscribing, smashing the super chat and all that good stuff. A huge thank you to Paula, Betty, Quantum Eraser, Anthony, and indeed Adam, the Adam Meakin, for making this Ballbusters possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next Ballbusters.
Right, the hand you went out.
You went deaf.
Hello?
There you. Is that you, Chris?
Okay. So if you watch me draw a circle, could you tell me how fast it?
Yes.
Could you assign a rate to the speed of my arm moving?
Yes.
Okay. Could you predict where my hand will be based on the speed that?
Right to hand, you got the same problem that you had yesterday. You're cutting off.
That's probably my phone because I know my phone's junk. I try and go for my.
Yeah, it happened again.
All right, I'll try and sign on to my.
Yeah, we didn't catch that.
Yeah, we do that. We do that in motion graphics all the time. We do predictive algorithms that can predict if you have a circle being drawn. We can actually see that a circle is being drawn and then predict ahead of you actually completing the circle when it's going to be completed by the rates. And
okay, but can you tell me why I drew it?
No.
And there you go. You can't prove cause from observing me do it. That's what you're trying to do with gravity.
No, that's like saying shark attacks are due to ice cream sales. Because there's more shark attacks when ice cream sales go up because it's warmer.
No, you have the rate. You can make predictions. You can't prove why I'm doing it.
You're right. So how does that equivocate to what we were talking about, to gravity?
It's the same thing with gravity. You can see it. You can make the predictions, but you can't.
I tend to, well, there is evidence for the cause, but I'm not even going there.
Yeah, that's the whole problem. All you have is an effect and not effect on everything, right? And then you're conjuring, or not you, They're conjuring this fairy tale non-force force of gravity. It doesn't work. That's
no,
not
actually,
science.
it affects everything. They just don't. We're not talking about the cause. I can't tell you why you drew the circle. If we go into where gravity comes from, we get into a whole other discussion. Correct?
Well, no, that's a science discussion.
No.
So gravity doesn't exist. You're just making up a word. I call it Ducal-Slopelgertz.
And you can call it downward force. You can call it whatever you want.
No, it's not a force.
It's a force due to something. Due to Google force. Whatever you call it. Google.
We already
Google
went over that.
So Google. So we have Google. Would you call it Google Gop? Google Gop. That's what the force due to Google Gop.
Well, I told you last time, Sanic, that you could relate it to the relative density, because if you can manipulate the density around the medium around it, and it will slow down. It would not go down at 9.2 meters per second, right?
That's because so the force due to gravity or whatever, the downward force is also applying to buoyancy laws as well. So
there is no force.
Yeah, because if you
no
have a
force.
medium, you make it denser, suddenly its buoyancy force is greater. If the buoyancy force
See what
equals
I said? I
the
told
force
you
to
right in the
gravity,
next hangout, right? There is no force.
There's no force, so things accelerate on their own magically.
You keep saying force.
Do you not? Let's back up a little bit. Does any
just like a river. I told you before, just like a river.
There's the mouth again.
Yeah.
Mouth. Come on.
Just
Stop.
like a river, it does accelerate by itself.
Stop. So if I put a force on something, do you agree that it accelerates? Quantum mechanics, quantum eraser.
There you go again. You put a force on something. Show me a 10
Does it
kilogram.
accelerate?
Hold on. Just show me 1 10 kilogram block falling without you picking it up.
You want to show you a video of that? I have a kilogram block here, actually.
Is it falling right now?
No, it's in equilibrium, equal forces.
Well, there you go.
No net force.
You're back to picking things up and dropping them and asking what causes that.
Me picking it up and lifting it, storing up kinetic energy or potential energy, and then dropping it. So yes, I could be the cause of the lifting and the dropping of that object.
Okay.
But there's multiple things going on.
Okay.
Right?
I've lifted up an object. It's in my hand.
And you've created work.
Yeah, okay.
You've expended energy to do that.
Okay, I'll let it go.
Stored in the block.
Yeah, I've let it go. So.
And now you drop.
No, it went up. It was a helium balloon.
Now you have the medium, the weight of the medium that is displaced by the balloon, pushing it upward. It's heavy. The medium is heavier by its weight. Its weight of the volume is displaced is pushing the balloon upward. This can be demonstrated and repeated and measured, and it's unchallengeable. If you can tell me where that doesn't happen, I'll listen, but I don't think you can.
Zanuck, are you familiar with the violation of the law of non-contradiction?
Yes, I am.
Okay, did George Musser, an astrophysicist, say gravity is not a force, but it can act as one? Did he say that?
Nathan earlier said words matter, so I'm going to call you on that one.
No, listen, I don't have that much time for you to go around the question. Did George Musser,
yes, he did, and I've agreed with him.
Hang on. So he said it's not a force, but you can think of it as one, correct?
Right.
Okay, now hang on. You said, hang on. You said you understand the law of non-contradiction, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I asked you a question earlier, and you answered it perfectly. And you did it without contradiction. I said, can a non-person cause anything? And you said what?
I said, no, a non-person cannot cause anything.
Okay, so if a non-person cannot cause anything, then a non-force cannot cause anything, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then why are you contradicting yourself?
Because the force we're talking about is caused by gravity.
But we just attributed gravity is not a force, but then you're saying it's causing something to happen,
it's causing a force.
No, but you don't understand.
I do understand.
No, you are attributing causation to something.
That's different than calling something a force. Am I my bicycle, or do I cause my bicycle to move?
No. Just let's stick to this thing.
because it makes sense.
Nathan said, in nature, do we see your gravity, the way you're just wanting to hijack it, allowing for bricks to fall from the sky or anything else? Do we see that in nature naturally occurring?
Everything in nature is in equilibrium until a force is acting on it.
Correct. So if you pick up a brick, what caused the brick to be picked up?
Me picking it up.
Thank you very much. If you left it alone, what's it doing?
Gonna stay there. Balance of forces.
Why is it staying there?
Balance of forces. Two net
No,
force. Every
no,
force
no. Why is it staying there?
Because nothing is adding a force to it.
Can we say equilibrium?
Yes, equilibrium. Balance forces.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
That's the
So
twice
you.
in
Okay. Hang on. You'll have plenty of time. So it's sitting there in equilibrium, resting. You pick it up. What did you do?
I added energy to it. I put a force to it, and I moved it a distance. Quantifiable,
Okay.
measurable, and predictable.
Good. And then when you let go, what happened?
A force is acting
No,
on it.
When you let go, what happened?
A
It
force
wants
is
to go-
acting. I
Hang on.
removed the
Hang
balance
on.
of force.
Hang on.
Hold on. Let me finish. You asked me a question. I
Well,
removed.
but stick to the topic.
Yes, we are. I
Equilibrium.
removed the balance of force, and it accelerated with a net force.
Okay, so I'm
Downward.
going to use, since you changed the language, I'll go back to what you agreed to. It's in equilibrium before you pick it up, right?
Correct. Yes.
So you caused it to go to disequilibrium, correct?
Absolutely. That's a great term. I love the way you're explaining this. Go
Well,
on.
thank you. Well, if you stay quiet, maybe we can get somewhere. All right, so then when you let go after you caused disequilibrium, what's it seeking?
Equilibrium.
Thank you very much. Now, if you were
Yes.
never there, what would have happened?
It never would have moved
Thank you very much.
until
So
another
you're
force acted on it.
Excuse me, Zanuck. Do you know what a pause is? You have plenty of time to talk. You picked it up. You let it go. You caused the potential energy, kinetic energy. You caused disequilibrium. And it says, leave me alone so I could go back to what?
Equilibrium.
Thank you very much. So now you've just stated something you are not willing to admit to, which is relative density.
Oh, wait a minute. Don't get ahead of yourself here. Can we stop? Can we pause for a second?
Wait a minute. How can I get ahead of myself when you keep cutting me
Because
off?
now you're talking about relative density. It's a whole different topic.
Well, because the only thing you have is gravity, and we're trying to get you to see something else, that something within a medium is going to behave in equilibrium to that medium.
Okay, that's fine. Sure. So we know the medium. We know the medium.
So then we have two options, don't we?
Yes.
We can have equilibrium to relative density until acted upon by you picking it up and it wants to return back to equilibrium. Or we could have this. God, you just can't control yourself, can you?
I can't make comments along the way. Okay, I'll stop talking. Go
No,
ahead.
that's called interruptions.
I'm sorry. I'll stop doing that. I thought I might appreciate my agreement to you. Go ahead.
No, I don't appreciate your
I'm
agreement
sorry.
because it cuts the mic off. All right, so if I could gather my thoughts here. So you have either a magic force of gravity doing it, or you have what we just discussed, you moving something out of equilibrium to disequilibrium and letting it go. We have two options to go here. Now, since astrophysicists, and you agree with them, say it's not a force, but you can think of it as one, that's really not scientific method applied or anything concrete for us. Okay? Would you agree to that?
Oh, I can talk? Yes, I agree to that.
Okay, so you agree to that because you have not provided any evidence for this non-force force.
Can I speak about the evidence now?
Well, hang on. So what I'm saying to you
I'm
is
still
this.
going to go.
No, what I'm saying to you is this. Until you provide actual evidence for a non-force force, which is a violation of the law of non-contradiction, we're stuck with one other alternative, which is, the medium in which something is depends where it finds its equilibrium. And that's very easy to understand when you see.
How long is this going to go on? Can I talk at some point in time?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm tired.
I would hope so. Yeah, you should be tired. You went on for a long time now. I get the message. We can wrap this
It
up.
would have been quicker if you hadn't interrupted.
Well, God, I just wanted to chime in, but yeah, there's three options of this observation. You're talking about relative density being one of the reasons. I said force is caused by gravity, not that gravity was a force. And yes, you are absolutely right. I like your explanation about that. You lift it up, you're moving an object in disequilibrium, and when you let go of it, it's searching equilibrium. it uses a force to actually strive to get to that point of equilibrium. And that force, I'm saying, is due to gravity. Now, if you're saying it's due to relative density, that's fine. You can say that. Let's look at the observation. We're in air. We know what air weighs. We know how much mass it is around it, how much it's displaced. And can we actually measure a pressure differential enough to create the force of 1 kilo force on that object, or 10 newtons? And we say, well, there's not that much pressure differential. So there, the answer is no. The pressure differential, the relative density, cannot cause it to fall at that rate. Now, it does have an effect on it, but not at that rate. Now, what other options do we have? We have a third option.
Hold on. I have a question there, Johnny. If you're saying that the relative density doesn't affect the rate, how come things fall slower when you increase the density?
I said not that much.
But no, hold on. If I told you that things fall because of my brain, okay? And then you start, hold on, you're interrupting. Remember, Zanuck, we spoke about, no, hold on. No, you can laugh with your mic off. We spoke about this at length the other day, how you have to stop interrupting people. And you agreed that, there you go. So, and see, this is the way he does it. I forget where I was going now.
Fall because of your brain.
Your brain.
Yes, thank you.
Increasing density.
Oh, yes, my brain. So if I told you that things fall because of my brain, and then you applied another force and made it not fall, and I was like, oh, it's not that it's that other force making it rise, it's just overcoming my brain force. Would that be an acceptable answer?
What are you talking about?
Okay, because I'm trying to get it so you can understand.
When
Don't interrupt. Hold on. Well, so
I get it. I don't see why you can't.
So if you tell me gravity is the reason that things fall, and I say the reason that things fall is because I'm controlling them with my brain, now we're going to go test it, okay? And what happens is when we drop things, we can change the density of the medium and the density of the object, and that will change and vary on whether the object falls, rises, or drops. So now you look at me and go, guess it wasn't your brain power then, was it? And then I look at you and go, guess it wasn't gravity then, was it? Right?
No, because you're ignoring the mass around it. You're ignoring the medium.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that I just said that you take into account the density of the medium. So how can I be ignoring it?
No, you're absolutely right. But the values, the acceleration rates will change now. If we change
because we changed the density. So the acceleration rates are based on the density, right?
Correct. But
okay, so where do you get gravity from?
The force. We have a force. We actually.
No, it's my brain power. That's my brain power.
You accept that mass is accelerated. You're not going to let me talk.
The reason why he needs a force is because he thinks that things float on the air without a force. That's why. You will never get him to understand that.
When there's a net force in a pool, something floats.
That's a water pressure. Pressure is the force then.
Right. Pressure is
okay. So you just said right. Oh, hold on. So stop talking.
I was talking, but go ahead.
Yeah, but you just admitted that pressure is the force. So why do you keep saying that gravity is creating a force so that you can have gravity?
Because there's an equal and opposite force. That's why.
Okay, what's the equal and opposite force of gravity?
The force due to gravity is pushing down. The force.
No, what's the opposite force of gravity?
Why are you talking over me?
Because you said everything has an equal and opposite force. So what's gravity's equal and opposite?
Gravity's equal and opposite force?
Yes.
The object being pulled to the surface of the Earth, and the surface of the Earth pulling to the object.
That's the same thing.
No, they're two different forces. You have a balance of force.
No,
when I sit in a chair, do you have a force of 200?
This is why you say net force. So you just invent a force. Oh, it's two opposite forces. Zero. Net force zero, right?
Net force zero. Yes, sitting on chair.
Yeah.
Net force zero.
Net force zero, meaning that even when everything's in equilibrium, you say no. It's just an equaling out of my presupposed force. So it's a begging the question fallacy. No matter what happens, you presuppose that there's a force. So when asked, well, what force? It's my brain power doing it. You go, well, no, my presupposed force causes it.
You can measure the force, Nathan. And you can measure the force. I have a force of my body on a chair, and I have a chair on my body.
Hold on. You said we can measure the force. Okay.
Yes.
So earlier on, you gave an example with a kilogram weight, right?
Yes.
Without
you can drop that and see that.
Excuse me. Without you doing something, it's got net force zero.
Correct.
What the fuck are we measuring, you stupid bastard?
You're measuring the force.
Net force 0, fuckwit!
Because you have a balance of force.
Hello?
You measure both.
Listen up, stupid idiot. Net force 0 meaning nothing. Nothing to measure. Well, that's before you fucking come along and give us something to measure. So, net force 0 means your fundamentalist belief in a cancelled force non-force that's not a force, that causes a force. Nothing's happening until you come along, shit for brains. You understand that?
Right. Yeah,
net force 0 means nothing's happening. Net force 0. Listen, net force 0 means nothing is happening. And until you do something, nothing's happening. So until you inject something to measure, there's nothing to measure. So don't tell me about the force being there, because until you come along and drop it and then say 9.8 meters per second, well, you dropped it. Until you did something, there was net force 0. Nothing happening. Nothing to measure, idiot. Equilibrium rules. We don't have general disequilibrium. We have equilibrium. Things seek it, generally speaking. Yeah? In other words, if they're not in equilibrium, they're trying to find equilibrium. But you come along and go, oh, look at that, equilibrium. No, not equilibrium. Net force 0. What, nothing happening, you mean? No, nothing happening plus my fundy belief in gravity.
Do you not agree that 1 kilogram weight lifted took energy to do?
Who cares? It took energy to do. Yeah. What goes up must come down. Equal and opposite reaction. You did something. Yeah. Well, before you did something, you're just ignoring it, aren't you? Before you did something, nothing happened. There was nothing to measure until you come along and did something. And you're saying, are you denying that after I've done something, that something needs measuring? Well, no. Before you came along, it was just sat there.
I agree with you.
So there's nothing to measure. So there's no force. There's 0. Yeah, stop it. Why does he talk? I let you jabber on about your bloody fundy belief. Now I'm talking. So shut up. Right. When you have 0 happening, what you call net force 0, there's nothing to bloody measure. So all we can do is push it out of disequilibrium, ignore the fact that you've done it, and then start measuring stuff. Well, no, mate. Generally speaking, we've got net force 0, nothing to bloody measure, no force involved at all. Just a fundy belief that there is really a force, but there's nothing to measure, it's net force 0, it's all cancelled out. My fundy belief, that is. Because nothing's happening. We're not measuring 9.8 meters per second in a rock. It's just sat there doing nothing. We don't generally see raining rocks to measure 9.8 meters per second. But then you come along and force it out of equilibrium. Then you start measuring. I went through this on the live show. You've just ignored it.
That's because you guys are not addressing the problem in his fundamental belief. He believes that things float if there's no force. That's the fundamental belief.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. Special pleading, right? Yeah. Special pleading. Do you know what that is?
Me?
No. If that's what he thinks, that without my fundy belief, everything would float away, that's called special pleading. Special pleading based on begging the question fallacy.
I agree with you, but you will not get him to move until he changed that perspective. You know, he's that's his fundamental belief, and that's the problem right there.
Yeah, let's see if
he has never seen anything float, but he yet believe it to be true.
Zanik, do you believe in unicorn farts, which are absolutely 100% real?
Nathan, no, I do not believe in unicorn farts.
Oh, well, how is your skin not melting off then? If it wasn't for the unicorn farts, my friend, your skin would melt off. What's that you say?
The example of equilibrium.
Sorry, what's that you say? It would all float if it wasn't for your fundy belief.
Do you not believe in Newton's second law? You're all over thermodynamic law's second law. Why don't you acknowledge Newton's second law?
Because you understand that It accelerates because the medium that it's in is lighter than the density that it is.
Wait a
no
second,
force.
he equivocated. Just
Show me in
because
nature
the
where
second law of
something accelerates without a
thermodynamics.
force.
Hold on a second. That's a
Show me
clumsy
something in-
equivocation fallacy. Shut up for a second. The reason why we don't is because they're two different subjects. Each are evaluated on their own tenets. Just because one says it's a law doesn't make it so. You understand that, right?
No, observations are laws.
No.
We observe
John.
the laws of gravity.
I've
My
been meaning
word.
to ask
Come
you this
on,
question,
dude.
John.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
The second law is the one of movement,
I
right?
just want to clear this up with Zanuck. No, we don't observe the law of gravity. The whole show is based on, number one, it being superseded, and number one, it being superseded by another load of old bollocks, Einsteinian, force space, right? That's the first problem. And secondly, no, we don't. I just went through this literally minutes ago. Until you come along and force it out of equilibrium, we don't observe stuff attracting other stuff. That doesn't happen, ever.
You nailed it on the head. Exactly. We forced it out of equilibrium, force, operative word. And now when I let go of it, there's a force that is responsible for its acceleration. Do you not agree that F equals ma? Do you not agree that A equals F over m?
Yeah, you've got a
We already went through this.
I know, it just ignores it and
It's
then
simple
repeats the
stuff,
same
right?
shit again.
We can put it on the side of a table and prove that a 1 kilogram weight
Newtonian
does accelerate at 1
laws
meter
are
per second.
bunk. I just proved them.
How did you disprove it?
My
Show me again.
word. Go back and watch the presentation.
All right. You let go of the rock, it accelerates. It requires a force. I don't know what the force is due to, but it has a force because nothing accelerates without a force.
It doesn't accelerate. I keep telling you.
It does.
No. Hold on. I've got a rock. I'm looking at it. Now tell me why it's not accelerating.
If you let go of it.
I haven't picked it up.
Then dig a hole under it.
Excuse me. I'm looking at a rock. It is not accelerating.
Is it on a table?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I put a scale on the table, I could weigh it. And that.
Sorry. Hold on.
That 1 kilogram
No. Listen. It is not accelerating.
Correct, because there's no net force.
Right. So there's nothing to measure. There's no force. Zero. None. It's not doing any. Hold on. Stop. I'm going to give you another example. I'm looking at my child's teapot. That's not accelerating either. Now, what I'm going to do is hold you here for the next 25 minutes going through objects in my room that aren't accelerating. Now, without me doing that, answer me this. How many objects in my room are accelerating downwards?
None of them are.
None? Wow, this is amazing law. The law of things accelerating downwards. Nothing is.
Can I finish?
I was talking, you stupid idiot. Now I'm going to look out my window. I don't seem to see anything accelerating outside either. There's also, coincidentally, a 1 kilogram weight that I can see out my window. That's not accelerating either. Why not?
Put a scale under it.
No, I'm not doing anything. I'm trying to look for a natural phenomena, you stupid. Listen, I'm looking for natural phenomena because we're going to be doing some science. So the first thing I want to do is find a phenomena. Now I'm looking out my window at a 1 kilogram weight and it isn't doing anything. So I haven't found a phenomena yet. So do you want to find me one?
Until that 1 kilogram falls off the tree. Then what do you say?
It's not on a tree. You're just making shit up. Why are you making up stuff to justify your fundy belief in this garbage?
A orange falls off the tree. That's 1 kilogram.
Oh, an orange. Oh, there had to be a huge process that preceded it falling. Huge process of it consuming energy, it turning sunlight into energy by the soil that it consumed. It's doing a whole bunch of different stuff. A whole load of time has elapsed before it got to the position when it was out of disequilibrium, and then a gust of wind came along. So in other words, it didn't just fall out of the sky, it was attached to something that grew and took a huge amount of time to get there.
No disagreement there at all.
Right, so there wasn't a force yanking it down. It was pushed out of equilibrium by the process of growth.
The force was needed to bring all those nutrients and minerals.
No, you didn't listen. There was no force. It grew. And as it did so, the heaviest item grew out of equilibrium by virtue of its consumption of energy. No force.
Was there a force?
No force.
Oh,
equilibrium was reached.
Force. Magic.
Yeah. By
Really?
virtue of its very sophisticated design, it's designed to have a stalk that breaks when it's pushed out of equilibrium. Amazing that nature is. It still had a process that preceded it of essentially
Radiant
picking
force,
it
force,
up
force,
from the
exist,
ground.
right?
Growth. Yeah?
Growth. Osmosis, diffusion.
Not osmosis, growth.
Radiant forces. Yes, all of those are forces.
Right, like you picking up the 1 kilogram weight. So something preceded it. We don't just have magic oranges that fall out of the sky and suddenly need measuring to establish why they fell out of the sky. We can most definitely explain the process that got the orange to be in disequilibrium.
But it took a force to do it. Why can't?
No, it took growth to do it. I explained it without using the word force. I used the word growth. Now your fundy belief is getting the better of you again, and you're inserting a force after the growth. Yeah, your
I want to put a
force,
growth machine on the engine.
your force comes after the already established reason for it being in disequilibrium, because generally speaking,
growth caused it to move up the tree. And I'm telling you, growth is not a force.
Okay, right. I'm looking at no worries. I'm looking at an orange tree now out of my window.
Okay.
No oranges are falling. None.
But when one of your windy days hits, it will fall.
Oh, so there's the cause then. Wind. So that would be a cause, my friend.
When I light the dynamite, I didn't make the explosion.
Yeah, now you're equivocating. So I'll try that one more time. It's very calm here, no wind. And yet this force that's supposed to be overriding and a law, for God's sake, doesn't seem to be happening.
It is a law.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm looking at an orange tree, mate. No oranges are falling off it. Why isn't this law holding true right now, this second?
Because you didn't find the time to look at it long enough to see it fall. Because oranges do fall off trees, if you haven't noticed.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and it's not, my friend. So this law's not holding true right now. It's in equilibrium.
Balance of force on
sorry,
that orange.
just let me get it clear. Right now, not only the 1 kilogram weight and my child's teapot and the rock on my table and the orange tree, all of them, everything in that list right now is in equilibrium. All of the above. Not one thing is falling. None of them.
None of them.
None of them. So this law's not panning out too well because from my position, everything's in equilibrium. And should one of those oranges fall in a minute, you've just told me that might be caused by the wind.
Has your little child fallen as she's been walking? Ever? Maybe hit her elbow, or maybe hit her head?
No, never.
She's never fallen. She stood up
Next
the first
question.
time and walked the steps.
Next question. So everything's in equilibrium. So what I'm going to assert is, given that everything, including the things you've agreed to right here, right now, literally everything I'm looking at is in equilibrium. So I'm going to state right here, right now, that the general rule of thumb... excuse me, I haven't finished talking. I'm going to assert right here, right... Do you think that this is an appropriate thing to do while I'm in the middle of a statement?
Continue, sorry. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
So had I have started talking, you'd have carried on, you'd have just made a second statement. So shut up. I'm going to state right here, right now, that the general rule of thumb isn't this 9.8 meters per second acceleration that we hear about, attributable to a force of gravity that's not a force, made clear by George Musa, but nevertheless we'll brush past that and say that regardless of an attributable force that's only applicable when you pick something up, I don't observe anything that I can attribute this natural phenomena to whatsoever, ever, and now in this conversation.
Wow. You must live inside, and all you have to observe are things on your tables and chairs and the shelf.
Hello, Bonehead. No, I'm looking out of a window at an orange tree and a 1 kilogram weight that are both happily in equilibrium on this nice calm day. Wouldn't you know that you can't even listen to my description? Now, I've got a window, mate. I'm not in a cell. I'm not locked up, my friend. I can see nature out of my window. And what I absolutely observe, most of the time, in fact, is equilibrium, not this force of gravity.
Right now, too, looking out the window.
You just can't help interrupting me. He's a wanker. So, wanker, I'll start calling at you because you obviously are a wanker. While I'm in the middle of a statement, don't talk. Simple. Yeah? I observe equilibrium. I do not observe your fundamentalist religious belief in a force that is apparently net force zero in everything I observe. Zero, none, not existing, not a force, and described as not a force by astrophysicists.
I'd like to answer, can I?
Answer, as made a statement of fact, I observe equilibrium, not gravity.
Newton's first law. You're dead right. You're dead nuts on. Yes, you are correct.
What is that law?
Things in motion will stay in motion. Things at rest will stay at rest until.
Does that apply? Does that apply to water and gas?
Applies to everything, my friend.
What about a river?
Everything. Everything.
What force is moving the river?
The force due to gravity, just like what caused the rock to fall down.
All right, I rest my case.
Yeah, that's a great example. Do you understand the second law? Out of curiosity, do you know what the second law states? Do you have any clue about the second law? I didn't think so.
Right.
How about the third law? Zero, huh?
Zanuck, let me ask you something.
Oh, you're asking me? Oh, I don't. I'm not interested on your fundamental belief.
Yeah, what a surprise!
Come on, Zanuck, I have a question.
Oh, you mean the laws that I just debunked? Just about.
No, I understand your world.
Ago?
I don't understand my world. That's interesting.
You mean the laws that I just debunked about 45 minutes ago? Those laws? Oh, okay.
Those
I remember those.
You basically added two, but that's okay. Go on.
Zanuck, Zanuck, I have a question.
John, tell me about entropy.
Zanuck, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Did you say that laws are observations?
Yes.
Okay, so then Newton's aren't laws. The observations are the laws, right?
The things you observe can be called laws.
Okay, so then there's no Newton's laws. They're observations, right?
No, those are laws also. Those are observations.
Yeah, so they're not Newton's
fundamentally,
laws.
Newton found his second law. He found it by observations.
Remember we talked about the interrupting? So you said laws are observations. So when you say Newton's second law, you're directly contradicting yourself when you say laws are observations, because that means I can make observations, which means that I can observe the laws and we don't need Newton, right?
What kind of doublespeak is that?
You tell me. It's your doublespeak.
No, I said that you can observe laws. Laws are observable.
Okay, so then why does Newton get credit? Why is Newton?
No, hold on a second. Newton? From Richard Feynman. Hold on 1 second. From Richard Feynman. The laws of motion from Newton were not right. Do I need to say that again?
What you need to do when you say something is not right, you got to back it up with why.
From Richard Feynman. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. I just backed it up right after that in the presentation. So go ahead and watch it again.
Appeal to authority.
Well, I can just throw you the same thing. You just said gravity.
Wait a second. He said appeal to authority. Hold on a second. What is an appeal to authority?
I was going to ask
using an authoritative person to prove your point.
Wrong.
That's a citation.
Appealing to a non-subject matter expert. Clown.
No, that's not true.
No, that's not true.
Right. If you appeal to somebody who is an expert in farming, about farming, that's potentially a citation, might be a quote, but that's backing up your argument with expert authority or a witness that's an expert in their field. An appeal to authority would be asking your mum about farming.
Okay. There's plenty of people that are experts that are wrong about their assessments and their statements.
That might be the case. Nevertheless, do you have a citation to counter Richard Feynman, an expert in his field?
Oh, yes, I do. I don't have it in front of me, but I have it.
Oh, well, shut up, you stupid idiot. Yeah, I'll take the citation over your nonsense that you claim to might have next time when your homework hasn't been eaten.
That Newton was wrong about what? Can you be specific?
Did you not hear the Feynman quote twice?
Everything. Oh, no, he told me a very general statement.
Hold on. John, can you read nice and calmly in a soft tone so it doesn't distort? The Feynman quote again, please.
Oh, man, I got a mouthful of pizza. Hold on a second.
Okay.
He's wrong. And how was he wrong in the law of the motion? What part of the law of motion was wrong?
No, I'm just answering what you asked. He said, that's what he said.
And that's pretty general, so I would come back with, and if you're going to say something's wrong, at least in my world, I explain why you're wrong. I don't just say someone's wrong. You're wrong because of this. That's
Not really.
Well, I freaking did it on the... How many times... Are you deaf? Are you fucking deaf?
You know I'm hearing you, and I'm listening to you too.
I already told you that after I stated that citation, along with about 5 other citations, then I went into the why, the cowbell. In fact, I actually called it cowbell. And then I said, ready, clowns? That means you to be ready.
Yeah, I know. I know you're talking to me. I appreciate it.
Okay. So right after that, I went into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So go back and watch the presentation.
I know the
now
laws of
Newton
Newton are not perfect.
Now I'm going to say it again.
And I know there's exceptions. And they're finding more and more exceptions.
He won't. This is the problem.
And
He says he listens.
to these laws as time goes on.
He just won't shut his mouth.
I'll say it again from the top. The discovery, this is from Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate physics. The discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behavior of light, and then in the behavior of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined us on the BALLBUSTERS after stream on Nathan Oakley channel. Massive thanks to all of you who hopefully hit the super chats, liked, shared, commented, subscribed, and all that good stuff. You can tell it's very late here. Also, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both the Discord and Skype panels for making this BALLBUSTERS possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.